I am inviting the Dean of the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, Professor David Akombo, to welcome everyone to this webinar, Higher and Higher Reflections, Jackie Opel, 51 Years On. Dean.
Thank you, friends. As we celebrate the musical legacy of the great Jackie Opel, I bring you greetings from Professor the Most Honorable Eugene Barito, Principal of the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill campus, and from the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts. Our students, professors, faculty, and staff join you in this momentous occasion in history as we take pride in the musical contributions of Jackie Opel. As you may have been aware, our faculty is the newest of the 7 faculties at UWI Cave Hill. Our responsibility is to promote the cultural and creative industry in the Caribbean and beyond. As such, here at Cave Hill, we are developing courses in Caribbean music, which will include the repertoires of Caribbean legends, including Jackie Opel, in an effort to continue building on his artistic legacy and help reshape the Caribbean identity. Having been recognized as the father of spoken music, our generation of students here at Cave Hill and in the Caribbean will continue to appreciate this genre, including others like ska and calypso, which Opel so espoused while creating his legacy in the industry. Friends, Opel was full of life, as you all know. Opel's music was like science. Opel's music was like mathematics. Opel's music was like language. Opel's music was like history. Opel's music was like education. Opel's music was like all of these things and much more. This is why we should celebrate Jackie Opel. Just so we will appreciate his contribution to humanity. Just so we will recognize the beauty in his art. Just so we will be closer to the soul of the Caribbean art. Just so we will all have more artistic experience. In short, just more life. In conclusion, I welcome you to the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts at UWI Cave Hill as we look forward to the future while partnering with cultural and creative artists to invigorate a healthy and productive Caribbean cultural and creative industry. Long live Jackie Opel, AKA Dalton Sinclair Bishop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. I now invite the Deputy Dean of the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts to come online and welcome you. Mr. Andrew Millington.
Good evening. I am going to be brief following the very eloquent Dr. David Akombo. I begin with an African proverb: until Africans tell their story, tales of the hunted will always be told by the other. In other words, this evening is an opportunity to begin a narrative. A beginning of sorts, because there is the sense that the full story has not been told. And it is an interesting form that we have March 9th to think about the legacy left by an iconic artist born right here on this island. And the importance of that memory is that it leaves for those coming behind to not only celebrate, but to use it as a basis to set the future. This new faculty has been engaged in trying to create a foundation for what is coming in the future. And I think what better way than to begin or virtual experience with the life of Jackie Opel. The one thing that I want to say is thank you to the panelists, because you have, most of you, the lived experience of the man. And you have a testimony that I believe will reverberate for a long time to come. And by sharing this, you too not only celebrate the legacy, but you leave your legacy as well. And don't worry, we'll be seeing more of you. Some of you, if not all of you, we will be bringing back to tell other stories, because we believe that your story, even inspired by Jackie Opel, is equally important. Your talent is amazing. Thank you again. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Deputy Dean. This is Zoom culture. I'm going to share my screen. Here for this session, I want to invite you to notice, whoops, yeah, this is Zoom culture. Stuff is happening. Rita is there, however, to help in case things go a little awry. Rita is the postgraduate student in cultural studies who helped arrange this, what you're seeing. So the fun part is I keep clicking the wrong thing. I practiced today. Okay, so we're having 5 reflections today for this memorial, Higher and Higher Reflections, Jackie Opel, 51 years on. The first reflection, we're looking at the funeral. Jackie died on the 9th March 1970, but I want us to give focus to the funeral, which was just 2 days later, 11th March 1970. Now, in 1970, there was no Twitter, no Instagram, no Facebook, no WhatsApp, no internet. Many persons did not have telephones, and yet constantly we hear of the turnout for the funeral. So I'm asking our panelists, and I'm introducing them, Al Gilkes, Ken Jones, Alps, Corbin, Richard Stoute, Gabby, and Aja cannot speak to this at this moment because I think Aja was like myself. We were in school. I was in school and Aja was in school. But who else is, who said that? Who said me also?
Ken.
Ken? No, you were playing with Jackie at that time, Ken. And Ken Jones is here. So we have a number of persons who played with Jackie, knew Jackie, grew up with Jackie. So for our first reflection, we are looking to 9th March. Please also be aware that those of you who are on Zoom and are live on Facebook, we have individuals monitoring the chats. So if you have questions or comments, please place them in the chats. At the end of each reflection, we will look to the chat and share it with everyone. So let's go. By now, the second slide. First reflection, 9th and 11th March 1970. This quote taken from The Advocate. Jackie Opel died in a car crash on Bay Street yesterday morning. The 32-year-old singer will be buried at the Westbury Cemetery tomorrow evening, hours before he was to have performed at a show at the Globe Cinema. We have, thanks to Al Gilkes, we have this image, which we will ask Al to speak to in a few minutes. 11th March 1970, thousands paid Jackie Opel final respects. Thousands of people from all walks of life paid their last respect to the late king. At the Westbury Cemetery, entertainers lined the main entrance, through which the casket bedecked with gold and blue colors of the Troubadours band, for Jackie was the resident singer. Thanks to Ken Jones, Sid Jones, and Alps, this image is actually from the 1970 report, 11th of March. Here are the Troubadours. Richard Bentham, Sidney Jones, Kenneth Jones, Dennis Jr. Turton, Jeffrey Jones, Orlando Thomas, Earl Yard, Lionel Coke, Horace Coke was his nickname, and Ralph Howard. There's also a note again in the Advocate in the background. Some onlookers elevated themselves by climbing on tombstones and vaults to witness the last journey of the great entertainer. Our discussions begin. One memory from each member of the panelists who was at the funeral or remembers the funeral. I will privilege the Troubadours because the Troubadours played at the funeral. Ken.
Hi everyone. Good night. My memory would be the amount of people that attended that funeral. Secondly, my father gave Jackie the most expensive casket, which was an imported casket from overseas. And, you know, and then, oh, one more thing. The microphone that Jackie used to sing through refused to work in the cemetery. We don't know why, and we didn't question it. That's it.
Okay. Another person who was there at the funeral, Mighty Gabby. Any comments from Gabby? You might need to unmute, Gabby.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, sorry about that. Hi, Ken. How everybody?
Hi.
Where Jackie's funeral took place was at St. Mary's Church. And ironically, you could walk about 150 yards from there, and you would have been at the house where Jackie used to live. It is that close. So all the people from my area came walk up the street. And I think, if my mind serves me well, is the first funeral I've ever seen where people were not wearing black and black. It was just a funeral that had black, it had red, it had blue, it had yellow. So that's the first funeral I've ever seen in Barbados like that. Some of the old people say, oh my God, they ain't paying their respect, they ain't got on the black. And the young ones there say, my God, it looks sweet, it looked good, right? I remember that so clearly. And until this day, I cannot remember any funeral in Barbados that had more people in attendance. The whole churchyard was overflowing out into Leroy Roar, up into Lakes Folly. It was just an amazing sight. And people actually walked to the cemetery. A lot of people from the Earlines, Chapman's Lane, you know, Baxter's Road area, Mahogany Lane, Lightfoot's Lane, and so on. They actually walked to the funeral.
Nice, thank you. Alps. Alps was not yet a member of the Troubadours band. Alps played with Jackie, however, in the Blue Jays and the Arcades. Alps is trying to remember if he attended the funeral or was he in Barbados Rediffusion. Alps, do you remember where you were for the funeral?
Let me start. I was not at the funeral, and you asking me to remember things 50 years ago. I don't remember what happened yesterday. Okay, listen. I remember I used to work, the only media we had back then was Barbados Rediffusion. We ain't had the CBC, TV, nothing. But fortunately, I worked at Rediffusion. I am sure, let me double check. I am sure we broadcast the funeral live.
It's 19 hours.
I am sure we broadcast the funeral live. And I was fortunate to be the technical operator broadcasting the funeral. I remember just, they would announce different bands coming in. I think the Merrymen were there. You were here, welcome this other band and this other person. But I remember it was the only funeral that I think Calypso and stuff played. Am I right so far, guys? Am I having the right memory? I remember music being played in the cemetery and the church, and I was blown away. And everybody going, wow, they're playing Kaiso in church. But it was a fantastic funeral, that as far as I remember.
Okay, thank you. Al Gilkes. I shared a photo that you shared with me that you've had in your possession for 51 years. The photo of yourself, Elambe Motley, then known as Elton, and Turton, who was a member of the Troubadours. Al, please share your memories of the funeral. Al? Whilst we're waiting for Al to come in, I have seen raised hands from Margaret Gill and Hugh Thomas. So perhaps you can put your questions in the chat, Margaret and Hugh. And
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you, Alps.
Al.
Al, sorry. I'm yeah, oh, goodness. Forgive me. Al, welcome.
Each other. We don't look alike.
You don't have the just now.
I am good looking. What I wanted to say was that my memory of the funeral encompasses a lot more than the funeral. Because 2 nights before Jackie died, I was the then Barbados Plaza with Mark Williams, who was preparing a show for Gabby, for Jackie at the Globe Cinema. I think you would have mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
And it was the very next night that Jackie met his death, unfortunately. What is also significant about it, that show was intended more than anything else for Gabby, for Jackie. Gabby, I don't know why I'm calling you Jackie. More than anything else, for Jackie to prove that Barbadians loved him, or if they didn't love him. There was this perception that Jackie was loved by everybody else except by his own people. It was said that the only time patrons came out to see Jackie is if he was on stage with an international act, and they knew that Jackie would tear that act to pieces, and they got the thrills out of that and came out to see him. But he also expressed this sentiment that night in the Plaza Bridgetown, Barbados, that if people do not come to the show, he don't know what he's gonna do. If he's still going to remain in Barbados. So I don't know if it was something that supernatural or whatever that caused what happened just some hours after that happened. But I believe my memory about the funeral is always clouded by those events, which would have prevented him from either having the happiest moment in his life, right, by seeing a crowd in the Globe, or having perhaps one of the saddest by not seeing many people in the Globe.
Okay.
The Globe or the Barbies? I can't remember.
It was the Globe.
Okay.
The advocate report said he was due to perform in the Globe. He was due to.
The rehearsals were done at Barbados Plaza.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm trying to ascertain.
Okay, gentlemen, we have a number of raised hands. Denise, are you receiving them? Are you seeing them?
Yes, I am. I'm wondering if these people would like to say something about their memories of the funeral. I'm thinking that that's what it's about. I'll contact each one of them and see if there's anything they'd like to add.
You know, Kid Sight has a raised hand. Yes. Margaret Gill before, and someone else had a raised hand. So we'll wait for you. Allison, do you have any comments on Facebook that you'd like to share?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so we've had 3 on Zoom, and we will allow those on Zoom. Denise will contact you and we'll bring your questions in.
We can unmute Kid Sight for now and have him speak on his memories if you'd like.
Thank you. Eugene, did you hear that? Please unmute Kid Sight.
Yes, please. I give Mr. Sight the option to speak.
Okay, thank you. Good night, Kid Sight.
Good night, but I was a bare little boy, so I just listened to everybody.
Oh, okay.
I was 5 years old. All I can remember is my aunt's crying, and then there was a program late in the night where Jackie Opel brother sang or something like that. Well, it was very vague. I can't remember that. I'm just here to listen.
But you have a raised hand, so I thought, did you have a question there?
Not yet.
Culture.
Welcome, Mr. Sight. What a thing. Yes, Mr. Sight. None of us remember your given birth name. Yes, Denise, is there someone else who wants to speak? Come on.
I'm contacting the others now. When they get back to me, I will let you know.
Thank you very much. Richard, I was waiting to hear from you. Are you there, Richard Stoute? Because of the tale of you were due to sing but couldn't reach the graveside. Can you hear us, Richard? Yes, we've lost Richard. Okay.
There's a question, Dr. Burrowes.
Rita, sorry?
There's a question by Margaret Gill.
Yes, please.
She says in the group chat that her question is, what was the audience a range of ages? How would the old woman who said it was disrespectful get to know about him to be there?
Okay. Anyone from
I could assure you that it was age groups from maybe 7, 8 years old to people in the 80s and 90s. It was not a funeral that I had ever seen before. You know, and that clearly told you that he went across the age spectrum in terms of popularity and in terms of people who loved him. He was not limited to just entertainers or people who went partying or people who went dancing or who went listening to music. Jackie Opel had this appeal. Anybody who knows Jackie Opel would tell you that no genre, no key, no nothing bothered him. So that's why people who were into religious music were there. People who were into listening and playing calypso was there. People who liked the spooge that he did was there. People who liked pop music because he was a master at pop music. He was a master at calypso. He was just a master with or without a microphone. The fact that he did not have a mic in his hand meant nothing to that man. You know, he was just a genius. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It also had a lot to do with the shock of the occasion. It was like when everybody around the world heard that Princess Di had been killed in an accident. Mm-hmm. That was how it reverberated across Barbados, that Jackie Opel had died in an accident. So people who, even if you didn't like Jackie, you felt sad, you felt bad because you're a man that had taken the name of Barbados right through the Caribbean and beyond, and who had more hits than anybody else in Barbados at the time, had died and died suddenly. And we had just had the unnatural death of a great entertainer called Otis Redding in the state. He was one of the most popular American entertainers with Barbadians, both entertainers and otherwise. So this was a second shock. And there was another international who had died suddenly in an accident as well. So I think this combination of deaths made Jackie's that more, I don't want to call it attractive, but more significant in the minds of Barbadians.
Yes, the immediate shock.
So whether it was the children from the nearby Samir school, or whoever, the fishermen in the market, the people working in town, Broad Street, Swan Street, and wherever, everybody headed for Samir's that evening.
Yes, so the images that we showed earlier of the thousands, they say thousands. I spoke with one of you and the comment was, you weren't sure if anyone was home. It seems that Barbadians left their home and made their way to the cemetery. Okay, I will continue now with reflection 2. I will share my screen. So we've had discussions, reflection 1. This is reflection 2. The image of Jackie, reflections 2, early years. I am inviting those who grew up with Jackie in Chapman Lane, Back Lane, Front Lane. We have Gabby here. Al has reminded me that he migrated to St. Lucie and therefore might not have immediate memories. I'm hoping by now Richard's microphone is working. Let me share one comment from Jackie. In 1969, Orlando Scott, better had now known as Gabby Scott, interviewed Jackie Opel. And I will be bringing in bits and pieces of that interview. So Jackie's comment immediately was, my singing career began way back in Glee Club at the St. Mary's Boys School. And when I was big enough to wear a cassock, I began singing in the church choir. Panelists, Al, you're up. I don't know if you can share a memory of Jackie. Gabby, who grew up with Jackie, yes.
I was hoping that Richard would come on before me, since we came on before him.
Richard. Yes, he was on earlier. Go ahead.
I can assure you, one of the greatest memories I've ever had was Jackie Opel, a guy called Jackie Crow, Lord Jesus, and a guy called Piffler. They had a little group. My mother used to name the Happy Jacks, all right?
Yes,
and
Lord,
these Happy Jacks.
Yes.
I would pass, you know, I would call it sleeping time, 9, 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock. I would never go to sleep till I hear these singers, because I had never heard anybody sing like that. And it was 4-part harmony. Jackie in the lead, of course, but Jackie Crow, who was, to my mind, till this day, one of the best phrases of calypso I've ever heard any place, whether it be Trinidad, Grenada, St. Lucia, Dominica, Barbados, or wherever. He and Jackie, and Jackie singing calypso and Jackie Crow singing the other songs, but nobody really matching Jackie Opel with voice, right? With power, right? He had his voice, to me, that it used to like penetrate his skin. You know, when he hit a note, it would just come through you like some kind of piercing song, but yet sweet and powerful. And every morning they had a lady named Monica and Stanford, and Jackie would go in front of Monica's house and he would make up something right there. Oh, Monica, baby, I'm here to see you, honey. Open up the window for Jackie. Some fools says, I mean, a new one every day, right? And Monica would be like a little annoyed, and she would come out and say, well, Lord, man, face, you know my mother sleeping. Go from front of the place, man. Come back later. Oh, Monica, baby, don't chase me away. Oh, Monica, baby, I'm here, my baby dear. Hold me. Or some fools again. And she would laugh, and she opened the window a little more, and Jackie would talk to her and stuff, and then he would be on his way, perhaps to the wharf or go swimming Pelican Island or something. But it was almost like a ritual that every morning Jackie would go by Monica's house, Miss Stanford, or Miss Baker. We call her Miss Baker, so we call her Miss Stanford as Monica's mother. But you could see this little guy, man, and he was all muscle, you know. He was small, but his body looked like somebody that used to work out every day. And all of that came from that among us swimming on the wharf and diving and all. Everybody know he could dive. He could hold his breath forever, you know. I tell you something, I don't think we would ever get anything close to that man again. That's the truth.
Yes. I see Al. Al, I know you moved out, but do you have any memories of Jackie before you moved to St. Lucie that you'd like to share? I'm trying to find Richard, by the way. Go ahead.
Believe it or not, but I was born perhaps the closest to Jackie. Virtually, I was born a stone's throw away from Jackie's house. But I never knew Jackie until a lot of years after, because I was like 4 years younger than he was, right? And no 4-year-old boy was going to walk around with a baby unless it belonged to him.
True.
So when I was 6, 7, my father got a job at what was then St. Lucie's Lighthouse. That was next to what is now Harrison Point Center, which then was the United States Naval Base in St. Lucie.
Mhm.
And so he moved the family there. So I never got to know Jackie before I entered Carson College at the age of 10. And I returned back, not to Chapman Lane, but I started to live with my uncle. But on evenings, when we leave school, there was a jukebox, the first jukebox ever to come to Barbados. And it was located on the steps of what was then the Bridgetown Plaza. This was the building that was next to what is now moved, the former fire service. It's located on
Corbin Street.
Pin. You know where Clement Pin.
Yeah, they're Problem Street and where the campaign statue is.
The bridge was right there. And every evening we would leave school. You weren't old enough to go to 4:30 show, because when you got home then you wouldn't have nothing to show except a bare bottom. And we would leave school and we would go and stand on those steps as people curious about jukebox and whatever, and they would just put in the quarters and patch these tunes, etc., etc. And one evening, as we were coming around by the fire station on the main road, we heard this voice that was louder than the jukebox. And when we got there, right, between the large crowd, there was this short guy. He was shorter than the jukebox, right?
Oh dear.
And he was singing louder than the jukebox.
Mm-hmm.
And the tune that, I remember this, the tune that was being played was Jackie Wilson. Jackie Wilson had one of the most powerful voices in the States at the time. And one of his main tunes was Higher and Higher.
Oh, yeah.
And when he sang Higher and Higher, it was higher and higher. And I believe that's where Jackie got the inspiration to record that tune as well. Right? And Jackie Opel sang beyond anything that Jackie Wilson could reach on an amplified jukebox.
Wow.
This is like going to one of my shows at the stadium or gymnasium and standing in front the speaker with Gabby singing at its loudest and singing over everything. But that was my favorite memory from then. Then after I finished school and I went into the Advocate as an entertainment journalist, then Jackie and I grew real close because I was the only entertainment journalist in Barbados and everything revolved around my writings.
I've noted in preparing for this discussion, Gilkes in the Advocate, Gilkes in the Advocate. Gentlemen of the panel, we have two questions. Denise, would you like to share the question?
Hi. The first question is from Cooper. She or he states that Al mentioned that Jackie embarrassed international artists. I've heard about him doing that to Percy Sledge. Please tell me it's true, and if it is, can you share that story? Anyone who was there.
I can share. Percy was just one in a slew of foreign performers who got slain by Jackie Opel on stage. Percy at the time was #1 in the world, I guess, with his song When a Man Loves a Woman and a few others. And he was brought to Barbados to perform at the same Globe Cinema. The Globe at that time was what would now be Kensington Oval for entertainment, or the stadium for entertainment. The Globe is where the big shows were accommodated. And Percy was slated to take the stage after Jackie. There were a few minor artists, don't remember who they were, and then Jackie, and then Percy. But when Jackie came over that stage, Jackie had performed like never before. He pulled out all the stops. So that when Percy came on, he sang one of his less popular songs and there was a small reaction. And he sang another one, there was little or no reaction. So he decided to sing his big song. which was When a Man Loves a Woman. And when he had finished, the whole cinema erupted with applause for him. But immediately after that, when he went to sing some other song, the whole cinema started singing, "Bring back Jackie. We want back Jackie. We want back Jackie." And they would not let Percy sing another note. Eventually, to save the show, the promoters had to call back Jackie to come and perform again.
Who was the backing band, Al?
I can't remember. It was you.
I think so.
Of course.
Because I remember
More
way
than
back
likely,
in
it was you.
I remember way back in Jackie, the same person said was peeping through the curtain looking at Jackie perform. And I remember where Jackie went in the middle of the globe and sang without a microphone.
That's right.
And that was something else, because I mean, a band playing in the middle of the globe, and my man projecting like
only he can.
I don't know.
Let me guess. You talking about projection? Let me give a story that proved to me that Jackie was the greatest. There was a night when a tourist liner had some engine problems in Carolina Bay. The harbor wasn't there yet, or it's just finishing, and so they had to accommodate the passengers at Hilton Hotel. In those days, liners weren't these 4,000 or 5,000 room things that we have now. It was a small, well, it would be a large liner then, but be small for now. It would have been about 500-600 people. So they were accommodated at Hilton, and somebody from the Barbados Tourism Board, as it was then, called me and told me that, because I was involved in entertainment, you would know, told me they had this situation and they wanted to know if I could source some entertainment for them. So I told them that the best entertainment for a group of internationals would be Jackie Opel. And they asked me, sure Jackie would sing? I said, yes, Jackie would sing. So I called Jackie and he said, no problem, Al. What time? And I gave him the details. So he told me, you got to be backstage with me because I don't know them people in there. So you pick me up and we put it together. So we were backstage, and then there's 400 or 500 people in the Hilton's ballroom eating dinner. And when they had finished, the MC came and welcomed them and introduced Jackie Opel to entertain them. Jackie's second tune was Fly Me to the Moon. Never forget this. In the middle of that tune, the microphone went dead. Went dead. And I felt a little sad because I figured, well, this thing will create a problem now for the artist. Jackie pushed back his hand to me and gave me the mic without missing a note. And then it was like raising the volume on an invisible speaker.
That's correct.
Jackie just raised his voice like 5 times the normal. You could have heard Jackie as loud from on the stage as if you were in the very back of the room. The first time in my life that I have ever seen anybody, black, white, pink, or blue, get a standing ovation live. That entire group of 400, 500, or 600 people just got up at the end of that song and applauded him for about 15 minutes.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Marcia, I had an experience like that myself with him. He was at the Rockley, singing at Rockley. And like I tell Jackie could sing anything, right? So he was singing, and again, the microphone malfunctioned. So the band immediately dropped volume. And Jackie shouted out, oh, they dropped volume for play at the same level. And when they start, Jackie then carried the thing this way.
Oh my goodness.
Carry it that way. And a man in the front said, if Harry Belafonte could make it to Carnegie Hall this fella could make it to heaven. It was
Listen,
amazing.
Jackie never rehearsed with Troubadours yet with a microphone.
All right.
He had a way of pitching his voice in like some corner or something and get the I don't know, like, but he never used a microphone. Never.
Marcia, let me chime in here. Everybody's talking about Jackie and his great singing voice and everything. Jackie, to me, the first time I ever saw Jackie really perform, that I've never seen before, CBC TV used to have a program called Studio Party.
Mm-hmm.
I went to this studio party. Jackie was not only a great singer, he was a fantastic dancer. This man could dance, okay? Dance like James Brown. So Jackie come out singing and the camera's on Jackie and he's singing and he's dancing. Jackie left the floor and Jackie went to the wall on CBC and Jackie ran up the wall at CBC, made a flip, landed on his feet. The cameras were so short, they couldn't even find Jackie. And the people went crazy. He was not only a great singer, Jackie was a fantastic entertainer and dancer.
I think both Al and Ken can attest to this. We were rehearsing a night at Willie Kerr's father's house, which is now the Barbados Workers Union headquarters, Harmony Hall. And Jackie asked one of the guys he said that this is the card here, this is the key, this is what we're doing. And the guy there saying, no, I can't. Jackie said, let me see the guitar there. Bam, 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 bam. I said, I ain't know Jackie Opel play no guitar. Never see it before. Went on the drums, give the fella the drums. Went on the saxophone, play the sax. I said, but what is this? Well, nobody never thought about this man as no musician. You talk about him as a songwriter and a singer and a dancer, but not musician. And that's the first time I knew that he was capable of playing instruments. I did not know that before.
He was a great musician. Have you ever had the privilege to go to the Bel Air, which at the time was the #1 jazz club in the Caribbean, well known around the world, right? There's where all the top jazz musicians playing at all the hotels, etc. When they were finished, they would meet at Bel Air and have a jam session.
Yeah, but
and
Slim.
Slim. Jackie would sing. He would go and play the we call him fiddle.
Fiddle.
Yes. Then he would take the drums away from
Fiddles. Fiddles and there.
And he played the drums. And if he could get his hands on somebody's saxophone, he played the sax as well.
Wow.
Probably played every instrument possible.
Actually, when we did the album in Trinidad with him, he went and he got some royalties and he went and bought a sax. And he was going to play at the show that was supposed to come on.
Okay, Ken, you're going to be coming to the album in a couple of next reflections, so hold on to that thought. We have another question online. Denise, what's the question?
The second question is from Margaret Gill. She asked, what did Jackie do to survive beyond singing? What was his home situation like?
Home. Well, the truth is that we were all living in very poor conditions, if you could call it that. You know,
it was called the slums. That's where we live. We live in what Barbadians call slums.
We call it slums. I mean, it was like, you know, but we never thought that we were in the slums. That's the whole point, because it never dawned on us that we were in a slum or that we were in some dilapidated conditions or some poverty-stricken place, because there was so much activity. You got tailors, you got joiners, you got carpenters, you got singers, you got people who play cricket well and football and tennis and all of that. Some of them were my relatives. You got a man like Rod Branker, who had perhaps the best house out there at the time, living up the street. Al just living a little further up the street. Rudolph Hines, top singer in Samir Square, and Armour Scott living on the same street. So, you know, I'm living further down, and Jackie Opel in the back lane. So it was like we always felt that we had something special to offer Barbados, even though they would look down on us as being, oh, them poor people from Chapman Lane or something like that. But for us, it didn't matter. What mattered was that there was this feeling of that we could compete with anybody and anything at any time, from academics to music.
Did Jackie give the name the Opels to the Opels?
Yes, Richard told me that story. I don't know if anyone, we still haven't gotten Richard back. Apparently Jackie created a gig for the guys. And when they went to the gig, they saw the poster saying the Opels. And they asked, Richard asked, who are the Opels? And Jackie said, I give one of my name. And, and the Opels were born. He never sang with them, but he gave them the name, the Opels. I'm going to move on to the third reflection, gentlemen, because I'm watching the time. So I'm going to share my screen again. Thank you very much. So we've had the discussions. This is the session, the reflection, where we pay tribute to Dr. Elizabeth Watson, who in a few weeks' time, it will be the 2nd anniversary of her passing. She did extensive research on Jackie, particularly Jackie in Jamaica. And she always said she left it for the Barbadians to put together the research on Jackie in Barbados. I believe her daughter is online, and her son, and possibly her grandchildren. But for this reflection to begin, we're going to begin with a song.
And if you walk too fast, I will run. You can't catch me. You can't catch me. If you drive a mule cat, I will drive a motor car. If you ride a bicycle, I will ride a motorcycle. If you drive on ship, I will fly in the air. You can't catch me. You can't catch me. Can't you see that I'm the turtle who won the rabbit race?
Okay, so I am now inviting Dr. John Hunt. Dr. Elizabeth Watson insisted that she must have a dance to her lecture. The lecture was in June 2018, and she spoke with Dr. Hunt and requested the dance. She also recommended the tune. The tune was You Can't Catch Me, which is an extremely popular tune, or was and is a popular tune in Jamaica. Dr. Hunt, who studied in Jamaica, choreographed the dance. We have looked for the footage. We haven't found the footage, but thank you, Dr. Hunt. We found that image that we saw there on Barbados today. Dr. Hunt, can you please speak to that experience as we remember Dr. Elizabeth Watson, who devoted so much of her time and energies to researching Jackie Opel. Dr. Hunt?
Thank you, Dr. Burrowes, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to all of you. My relationship with Elizabeth through the Cultural Studies program was always about her love for Jackie Opel and all things Jackie Opel. And so when she asked me to come together to create the dance for this particular event, there was no way that you could say no to Elizabeth. One of the things that I think that stuck with me when she talked about doing this was not only to highlight how important Jackie was as a performer and a creator of music, but also his importance to Jamaica. I don't know if people are aware that he's in the Jamaica Hall of Fame, that when he entered Jamaica, it was just around the time of Jamaica's independence. And so the development of all things that we have spoken about in terms of his prowess in all kinds of genres of music, but especially the music that was becoming a national signifier, which was ska, was something that he was at the forefront of. And he would have been, in fact, very influential, not only in creating music, becoming a recording star, but also in bringing along people like John Holt, the Wailers, Robert Marley, and others into his fold. So the thinking about what is the national signifier of music for Jamaica, ska, which developed into rocksteady, which became reggae, very much at the end of Jamaica, was maybe some of the things I think that Elizabeth was thinking about in terms of the advent of Jackie to Barbados and what he could contribute to Barbados as to create what he considered a national signifier. So he was very much prominent within the Jamaican space. He was very much a part of the popular music of the area. And so the music in terms of what it reflected in terms of bringing up the indigenous movement and putting it in the dancehall space, the way that he would create music on the fly within minutes on to arriving at a recording studio, you were able to create the music, and that they were all hits. There were a variety of hits that he would have made within this 4-year period in Jamaica. It was one of the things I think she wanted us to reflect in the movement, and of course the joy of life, and this music was about the everyday, about how women and men courted together. Those things like that was the things that I think she wanted me to highlight, and hopefully I would have done a good job. So.
Thank you, Dr. Hunt. I am going to again share my screen. And just to give a piece more of that music, some members of the panel said they hadn't heard it before. Sorry, before Elizabeth played it, very popular song.
I will run, you can't catch me, you can't catch me. If you drive a mule cat, I will drive a motor car. If you ride a bicycle, I will ride a motorcycle. If you drive on ship, I will fly in the air.
Okay, continuing our reflection of the work of Dr. Elizabeth Watson and in tribute to her memory, and as I said, I welcome her daughter and son who are online with us, I'm told. I'm also going to look at an interview conducted by Alison Ramsey, who is now Dr. Alison Ramsey, who was in first PhD in cultural studies. She wrote an article, Jackie Opel, The Jamaica Connection, and she interviewed Dr. Watson. Watson said that the climate in Jamaica was one that would have been more receptive to Opel than Barbados. For the 1960s, cultural expressions such as music were more readily accepted. This led to the emergence of music such as ska and the development of the Skatalites, in addition to the rise of other studios and promoters. Watson continues, she said that many Jamaicans still believe, even today, I keep hearing this, that Jackie is a Jamaican. That he's Jamaican, as Opel performed at many uptown, downtown, and country venues, sometimes 3 in one day. His performance schedule took him all over Jamaica to places such as Mandeville, Kingston, and Montego Bay. In the interview that I first referred to in the beginning with Orlando, now we know him as Gabby Scott, Jackie, you have been living in Jamaica and Trinidad for some time. Is it that the grass is greener in those countries for entertainers than here in BIM? Jackie replies, the grass is not any greener. If an entertainer is determined to make a success in Barbados, he will succeed. And the same thing goes for Trinidad and Jamaica. But I left Barbados because there were no recording facilities in the island at the time, and simply because Trinidad and Jamaica had the machinery and were recording the soul of that period. Discussions. I know Gabby said that he spoke with Elizabeth and she made a comment about perhaps if Jackie had stayed in Jamaica, he might have been very successful. I know that Aja also spoke to Elizabeth, and I'm welcoming Aja and Gabby to speak on this reflection for Elizabeth, and also anyone else who wants to reflect on what she said. She commented on about Jamaica being more receptive to Jackie. Who will begin?
Let Aja begin.
Hello, hey, yes. You can hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
We can.
Yes, well, my connection with her happened right after the rededication of Jackie's grave on August 20, on March 9th, 2018. After putting that event together, started making it happen. I would speak to that. I would speak to that later. But after organizing the event, and Dr. Wilson was at the event, and the next day she called me and told me she was preparing this paper and the study on Jackie Opel. And she was meticulous with getting the information about Jackie correct, and she sort of instilled that in me as well. And one of the things I remember she told me is that that, and Ken, in fact, Ken and I, we had to do some serious amendments the day after. She told me that Bajans spelled Jackie real name Sinclair, S-T full stop, then Claire. She said that was wrong. It is Saint Clair, S-A-I-N, St. Clair. And she told me she actually have Jackie's birth certificate to prove the correct spelling of his name, you know, yeah. And she told me she would email it, that she would email it to me, and within a matter of a few minutes, she actually sent me the birth certificate of Dalton Sinclair, you know. And what that showed me too is that here it was that, you know, we have rededicated the Jackie's tomb, because it was obviously a grave before, but now it's a tomb, and that was it was more than an entertainment ceremony. It was really a religious ceremony, because certain rites had to be done, because you're changing the dynamic of a grave to a tomb and so on. But it also showed that here it was that Jackie had to be taken seriously by us, by Barbadians. And I don't know if up to that point we were putting sufficient effort to really put Jackie on the pedestal. I think it is happening now. And I think that the rededication of Jackie's grave opened the door. The fact that we are here now having this Zoom conference. Not that attempts were not made before, but I think after that, the rededication of his grave, a chain reaction sort of happened, which I will speak to later. But it showed that Elizabeth was focused on really getting the true perspective of Jackie and what he achieved. And I remember her lecture, I mean, freaked me out. It freaked a lot of people out that were there, right? You know, where even outside of Barbados and Europe, Ireland, I think she mentioned Italy, have a Jackie Opel Day. You know, this was news to us. You know, she also gave information that in Japan, one of his songs would download for something like $10,000 US. 10,000. You know, I could be wrong, but it was in that area or even more. You know, and I'm saying, I mean, where is this information coming from? You know, and I just hope, let me say here, I would just hope that that lecture that Elizabeth Watson did, it has to be shown to Barbadians. That information cannot remain as a memory for those who attended. That is crucial information, because Barbadians don't really know who Jackie Opel, what he achieved, and the level he's at. I mean, we are hearing it here now, but I mean, she sort of put it into perspective, and then opened the doors to say people in Ireland doing Jackie songs, and Italy have a Jackie Opel there, and Japanese freaking out over Jackie Opel. This was news to us, you know. This is really news to us.
Gabby literally has his hand raised. Gabby, go ahead.
Yes, I endorse everything that I just said. What people don't understand is this: the enormity of Jackie Opel. Now, at that time, the most popular TV host that brought entertainment and other things to the screen was a man called Ed Sullivan.
That's true.
And Elverna del Congo, Vern Best, and Jackie Opel are the only two Barbadians I know, and Betty West, that actually went on the Ed Sullivan show. And one night, my phone rang, and it was Amber, who was one of my daughter's mom. She said, Gabby, Jackie Opel is on right now. Oh my God, he was brilliant. I didn't know he made the Ed Sullivan show. I said, yeah, it was showing back all Ed Sullivan show footage and so on. I said to her, you videotape it? She said, oh God, I was so excited, I forget. I had to think that just to press the button, and I didn't remember. But that footage is there. So somewhere, I don't know if you go up on the Google or whatever, you will find it, but it is there, that Jackie Opel made the Ed Sullivan show. It'd be like making Johnny Carson's show, or you know, one of these Saturday Night Live or something like that shows. It tells you everything about that man in terms of his ability. You don't put any and everybody on to shows like that. You had to be extremely popular or extremely good or both. And he was both.
Like true. Elizabeth in her she wrote about that. I just want to say before Aja, Elizabeth has put a stop on her thesis. Since her passing, the material of the thesis is in the hands of her estate. I believe the estate is thinking of publishing, which is what Elizabeth always wanted to do, publish the entire work so that we would have access. And as her daughter and son are on, I know they are looking towards that. Al, go ahead, sorry.
All right, it's in black and white that Jackie in his short lifetime wrote over 600 songs. But he himself, as Gabby would tell you, used to tell you, he had more than 1,000 songs, right? So that when he went to Jamaica, he recorded, there's so much music that he recorded in Jamaica that Bajans know nothing about. Sure. But if you go on YouTube and you insert the name Jackie Opel, I mean, there's a list of tunes, tune after tune after tune after tune, right? Including 2 songs, among others, which to me proved to me that Jackie was one of the greatest ever in the Caribbean. 2 songs with 3 of my most favorite Jamaican artists, Bob Marley, Banuela, and Peter Tosh, as backing vocalists. When you can have those 3 greats, the great Bob Marley, the great Peter Tosh, right, and the great Banuela, as your backing artists, that says so much for that man.
Yeah. In fact, if I could come in here again?
Go ahead.
Yes. Just continuing from analyzing what Al has said, and the others with respect to Jackie's role in the development of ska, right? And you really got to put Jackie into perspective. You got to understand that Jackie was therefore only a great Barbadian singer. The Jamaican he's Jamaican, a great Jamaican singer as well, right? Inverted commas. But what that is saying is that Jackie is unique within the Caribbean musical development, because here it is that this man from Chapman Lane impacted on the development of 2 music forms in the Caribbean: the development of ska and the development of stooge. He's at the cornerstone, at the root of those 2 music forms. There are not many other artists in the Caribbean that you could point to say they are responsible for this musical genre, right? So that even puts Jackie now at a different level within the realm of Caribbean music, you know. Only Barbados and Jamaica, when you analyze that, he is at the root of 2 Caribbean music forms. He is special. That is special. That's unique.
Yes.
That's his history. You can't take that away from, you know, it's amazing.
Look,
and I think that
the Trinis, I just saw the Trinis used to call Jackie Opel the singing Everton Weeks, because both of them had that Beaufort short look, and they were always refer to Jackie as the singing Everton Weeks.
Yeah,
I met a guy who was a member of the Skatalites, and he told me how Jackie became a member of the Skatalites. He said they were rehearsing in the morning about 11 o'clock. In comes this little short Beaufort guy into the rehearsal room. And he said, "Good morning." And they said, "Good morning. Look, I can sing a song with you." And he said, "You're a singer?" "Yeah." "Where you from?" "Barbados." And the guy start laughing. "Barbados, a singer? We never hear about no singer from Barbados, man." He said, "I could try a little something." He said, "Yeah." When Jack, the same song that Al just mentioned, they Fly Me to the Moon. The guy said when Jackie hit that everybody stood still like this. The musician is supposed to be playing. Nobody played. And the guy said, you want to join the band? Because I am willing to give up the lead vocals and let you become the lead singer. And he told me that and told the whole world that on a radio station called WBAI in New York City. It's probably still going today. It's a station that has no advertisement in it that you could say where you like, but Exxon or whoever, you know. And I said, what? He said, yes, that's how Jackie Opel became a member and the lead singer in the Skatalites.
Okay, another number of questions online. Denise, go ahead.
There aren't any questions, but there are a few comments.
Okay.
There are a few comments. One of those who I guess prefers to remain anonymous states that the conclusion that Barbadians might have been less receptive to Jackie might need revision. The funeral numbers in the absence of highly developed public media speaks volumes. In his home, if his home situation was like mine, very lower income, surviving because of farming families in the country people also appreciated Jackie.
Okay.
One other comment was that a friend in New York told me that 2 different Jamaicans there swore to him that Jackie was Jamaican. He could not convince him that he was not. And finally, Kim Campbell, she wants to say, so wonderful, Marcia, Dr. Watson. Mom would be very pleased with this celebration. We must continue to document our cultural heritage before it is lost. The meticulous nature of Mom is correct. Our family thanks you, Kim Campbell.
Thank you very much, Kim. Thank you very much, Raymond. All right, gentlemen, I'm going on to reflections 4. I'm going to share my screen.
Could I just say one thing before you go to get there?
Sure, go ahead.
Another significant achievement by Jackie that few people know about was the fact that he was once signed by MGM Records in the United States, for which he sold over 1 million records. Over 1 million records that he sold for MGM before he came back to Barbados and unfortunately met his death.
And what happened with the money? Because I know he never got it.
They probably got MGM. Listen. Not had a lot of hits.
Oh, you got MIA, missing in action.
You remember artists in those days were paid literally 1 cent on the dollar. So many artists were not paid and were able to argue for royalty decades later. The companies would keep the money. That is something to research into. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. I know we're still trying to get, did we recover Richard? Or are we still trying to contact Richard? Reflection 4. We move on to reflection 4. Sharing my screen, everyone. This is Zoom culture. Reflection 4 is Jackie is back in BIM. He comes in. Dr. Watson says he came back sometime 1967, 1968. She wasn't sure. She heard both dates. And in 1970, he made this album, the memorable Jackie Opel. And this is the album cover from which we took. The back cover is this, an absolutely sexy looking Jackie Opel standing against an extremely large camera, but those were the cameras of those days. But the important thing here is I thank Al Gilkes, and I've thanked him in the thank you sections, in our approval sections, but Al supplied the image of the back cover, and the writing here is Al Gilkes. I believe I would like Al to speak to that, because most of this speaks to Jackie and his triumphs, etc. This bit here speaks to his passing. Jackie died tragically in a car crash shortly after returning to Barbados from Trinidad, where the album was recorded. During the week that followed, the glowing tribute paid to this supreme entertainer and gentleman in every sense of the word by his many fans, his friends, and the nation as a whole is certainly an example of his energetic personality to those who knew him, and especially his audiences. I will let Al begin, and then I will invite Ken to come on, because Ken played in the Troubadours, which was the backing band for the album. Al, when you were asked to write the notes, you had no idea that the 9th of March would happen, yes?
No, when I was asked to write the liner notes, I think I wrote something, and then after what happened, the unfortunate accident, I was asked, I had to rewrite them because it couldn't be the same. And if you read them, you can hear my heart crying for Jackie. But I believe it was either Ken or his brother.
Yes.
That said, who called me when they were ready to release the album. And as I said, I was the entertainment journalist in the day at the Advocate. And they asked me if I'd be willing to write the liner notes for the album. And I was very happy to do so because I had always respected Jackie. He'd always respected me like he respected anybody who came from the city. Whether you're from downtown, in those days you were downtown or you were uptown. Whether you're from uptown or downtown, Jackie was king for the downtown, uptown people, and Jackie respected you for that, being part of his inner circle, as you want, if you want to call it that. So I was very happy to do it. And I don't know if
I'm going to invite Ken because in my research, sorry, Al, in my research, I spoke with Sid, so I was hoping he would come online. I spoke with Ken. Apparently, the arrangement to record the album was kind of made in a hurry, and the Troubadours packed up and went to Trinidad, recorded the album in one day, and recorded another album.
Let me clarify you on that.
Yes, sir.
Troubadours was going to Trinidad to play for Carnival.
Carnival, 1970.
Right? And the world, I guess, was decided that they wanted to do this album with Jackie. And they sent him down there with us to record this album. And the album was recorded. I really got to laugh. We played out the nighttime, leave plane, went straight to the studio in Port of Spain. Actually, we got there before a man called Matt Soro, who was the engineer. He was a BWI pilot at the time. He had a studio called in Port of Spain. And we were outside waiting for him to come and open up. Obviously, we bought, in those days, we had a lamp. We wanted ham cutters. And the Trinidadians said, no hops and ham. That was a big thing. How many hops and ham? We used to call it ham cutters. Anyhow, we recorded that album in one day. Seriously, one day we recorded all of those tracks in one day. And some guys were inside the studio snoring while they were recording because they were tired. But then Jackie left and came back to Barbados, and then they realized something was wrong with one of the tracks. So he had to fly him back down to Trinidad to redo the track. And I mean, to record an album in one day, up to now, I don't know how it was done. Serious, but it was done.
Thank you. Memorable Jackie Opel.
Yeah.
And
that was the genius he was.
That was the genius he was, yes.
But the thing about that, we were backing him all the time. So it wasn't like they had to rehearse to do it. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4 down the road. You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm going to invite Alps, who became a member of your band a few years later. But Alps, you backed Jackie in other bands, yes, Alps? In the Blue Jays and the Arcades?
Yeah, okay. It's time to bring a little levity to the program. It's 20 hours. I backed Jackie at the Half Moon Hotel in St. Lawrence Gap with a band called the Blue Jays. I have no idea. Back then, I just started playing guitar, being taught by a guy called Clifton Glasgow. I had known only 4 chords. 4 chords. So Jackie don't rehearse with the band. He never rehearsed. he come up to us and he holler, I got to sing the one tonight. Want to know these songs? You know, Fly Me to the Moon? And we sing, yeah, we know them because we got Bluff. You know a song called Where Have All the Flowers Gone? Yeah, we know that one. All right, we can start with that one. And we start to play. I know these 4 chords. So Jackie come to sing this song and he got his voice. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Now I know the chord, we playing wrong chords. Check Jackie next verse. Where have all the musicians gone? Listen, that's the most embarrassing moment of my life on stage. He got through because if you play bad or not, Jackie is so powerful out front singing. That people really want to hear the band. That's the first time I saw Jackie sing, and he bring the band right down. He put the microphone on stage. Put the microphone on the ground. And he sang on the ground over the microphone. That all that stuff blowing us away. But that's the first time I ever really back Jackie at the Half Moon Hotel. And I think after we done did that gig at Half Moon Hotel with Jackie, it was the first and last time we backed anybody. I think we got fired after that.
One thing I can say that Jackie always with us appear in a suit, well dressed all the time. Never in a shirt and pants or t-shirt and so. He was always well dressed.
No, he was the consummate entertainer on stage.
Correct.
No matter how he appeared otherwise, once it was short time, Jackie was dressed, well dressed.
Not only that, and you know what blew the Troubadours mind one night? We used to play at Paradise Hotel every week. So when he joined the band, we took him down there and asked us not to bring him back. And you know what hurt the fellas? That we were obviously in them days, you used to wear shirts and pants, pretty shirts and dress properly and thing, but Jackie was in the suit. And we walk out on Paradise Hotel. We walk out. I talking about Paradise Hotel was like full of people. And we called the guys with instruments and we left. Because how you could look at a man like that and tell me, our singer. So I think that's why he had loved us really, really bad, because like we didn't say, well, okay, we ain't bringing it back and blah, blah, blah. We walk.
Ken, why did they want him?
You know how it is. Jackie was a rough boy. Jackie was a mobilette man in the day, riding mobilette, looking like a real Alba, no. You know what I mean? But at night time, Jackie well dressed. But in the day when Jackie moved around in mobilette and all sort of thing and all sort of, you wouldn't believe. I mean, I think Al got a story about that Al didn't speak to him or something. So, Al.
No, I was driving coming down by the Garrison, and when I got to the Aquatic Gap, he was on the wall sitting, but I was in a hurry, so I could always see Jackie, and I passed, right. So I just stopped. I didn't blow the horn. I just passed and then a few days later. He, Mark Williams, and I were together somewhere. I think this is when he was we're planning the show. And I said something like, Jackie boy, I asked you for wine. He said, you will see me for wine, and you passed me on the wall there in Bay Street, and you want to speak or say a word to me, or me will see me for wine.
I just want to. Sorry about this. I just want to. I just want to go back to the incident at Paradise, because it's saying that Jackie experienced class discrimination when he came back to Barbados, performing on the hotel circuit in Barbados. The greatest talent that Barbados had was not enough for the tourist market of the time or the hotel circuit of the time, where you could hear something where the management of Paradise did not want the greatest singer in Barbados. at the hotel performing because of the class situation, the class dynamic of him. I mean,
At that point, you remember that the guys were white managers and they didn't give a thing about Jackie. I don't even think them know who Jackie did.
Okay.
It was associated with all Barbadian entertainers. I started my musical career playing steel band, right? And then one day we were playing in some hotel. It was Marine House then, Marine House, which was a hotel. And a doctor, I don't know him, he didn't know me, but he knew me. And the next day, when we were at prayers in Harrison College, the headmaster announced that he wanted to see me after prayers. When he went to his office to find out what happened, I know I was a little bit of a kid in school, so I used to get called up quite often. But that day I had no reason. I'd done nothing to be called the headmaster's office.
Wow.
And this says, Mr. Gilkes, I have a very damning report about you. I said, we're talking about, it's been reported to me that you play steel band. I says, yes, sir.
Wow.
Well, I want you to know that steel band and Harrison College don't go together. So don't hear anything about that again.
Yeah.
But I lived long enough to see a steel band being formed in Harrison College.
Wow. So in a way, that statement that Elizabeth would have made in the comment when she was talking about Jackie, that why he went to Jamaica, where Jamaica would be more conducive to his development more so than Barbados. You could see the link, right? The landscape here was not conducive to artistic and cultural development, particularly of an Afrocentric nature more so than the British colonial style, right? So I can see where the two mesh, where she said, something. Jackie had to come out of the Barbadian landscape. He said because of recording studio, he said because of song, but it's also this class situation where entertainers were not respected and from a class perspective, having that level of respect. And I'm sure that y'all probably experienced and y'all.
It was all This isn't about me, but let me just get another classic example. In the 1960s, I started playing with a group called Soul Kings. There's 2 white men and 2 black men, right? DG Giddens and 3 more of us. And we were playing at a certain top hotel on the St. James Coast, on the Gold Coast. And in those days, as a band, despite the fact that I didn't work, when you had a break, you were sent to a room in the back, and the only thing you got was a bottle of rum and some ice and some water or soft drink. And I was working in journalism, right? So you should leave work, get home, put on my band clothes, and head to the hotel with the band. But by coincidence, I discovered that a cousin of mine from Crawford and Lucy was working in the kitchen. Because you playing in front of people, 500 or 600 people eating for 2 or 3 hours, and you are starving, right? And then in the middle of it, you get a bottle of rum. So I asked my cousin one night if he can get something for me to eat. He said, no problem, Al. And when we took the break, he came and gave me a plate of food. And every night we played there's a one, so he would give me that. And then one night, DG, who was the lead of the band, one day he called me and said, Al, you cannot play with us anymore at that hotel. Right? I said, why we can't play anymore? He says, the manager said, if we bring you back, we will have to give up the job. And it was all because somebody told him that this person in the kitchen gave me something to eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that is that's the conditions that existed in Barbados.
Aja is worse than that, man.
Wow, that is
I
crazy.
remember I had a girlfriend and the mother look at me and tell she don't talk with me because I should be working at Care Shepherd. That time, that time, let me tell you something, that time I got care, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as her mother was concerned, I had a job.
Wow.
I know they also tell you I was making more money than the T-Shop Foundation that was teaching me by playing music at night.
Wow.
Imagine that.
But we were not music. They had this classes like line a job that like
a hobby.
Oh, one more thing I want to tell you all, right? Jackie died, and my brother was working at Scotiabank, and he gave up his job, right? Because we were supposed to go on tour with Jackie to Australia. Y'all don't know that, but we were supposed to tour Jackie. That's from the album. We were ready to roll, right? So we all gave up all what we were doing and decided like we're going to hit the road. And he died. That was the sad part about the whole thing.
So can you were saying that Jackie's album impacted on Australia to the point where he was
Jackie was known already. The album really was just like the album, but Jackie was known because I remember we toured Grenada with Jackie, and then we were going to play in a place called Simon in the country, the bank holiday. We were on the beach, and some girls tell them we're going to Simon to play, and the girls start to cry. And we said, "Well, y'all are crying?" They said, "Because y'all can get beat," right? And it was a rough place, but when we got there, the people didn't know Jackie, and it was like smooth sailing. I mean, like they knew Jackie, and we were like, "How these people know Jackie?" You know what I mean? But he was known.
All right, gentlemen, we have questions on Facebook and Zoom. The person on Facebook, it's a question relevant to what we're discussing. Go ahead, either Denise or Allison.
The question from Facebook, can any of the panel speak to the obvious business acumen of Jackie with respect to his many trailblazing operations?
Can you repeat that?
I didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
The business acumen.
Yeah.
Remember, I could only talk about one thing, and Richard Stoute could talk about this better, and then I would speak a little on why my hand was up. One day, Richard Stoute was the manager at Holiday Inn Hotel, and he is walking up Bay Street, heading to make that right turn to go through Aquatic Gap to go to the Holiday Inn. And Jackie saw him, and he said, "Call Richard, little man. Little man, where you going now?" I said, "Man, I'm going here and collect my check." "How much it is?" $800. $200 can hold you till later? Yeah. "Then anytime you want to, come to me. Leave that for about 4 months. You're gonna get a raise." So said, so done. And Richard got a $200 raise. I was able to give back Jackie every cent. And Jackie said, "So I tell you, the reason why you get your raise isn't because you're doing a good job or because you're singing good. It's because you realize that you ain't hand to mouth and you ain't running behind the money. That's why you get the raise." He was a thinker, but people did not understand what kind of man he was. In many respects, to answer the question of the young lady, he had that entrepreneurial skill, but was stifled because there wasn't any room to maneuver to show it in Barbados at the time.
At the time, Gabby, these days, there's hardly an entertainer who has not had at least a secondary education, whether it is newer secondary or older secondary. I got into arts and college because I don't know what happened. My father decided when I was born that I was going to go to arts and college, and he saved and scraped work, 2 and 3 jobs, whatever. And he got me to arts and college. You didn't have to sit an exam. You went and applied, and you went in, and they gave you some questions, and who did the best got in. I passed at 9, but they said that They had some people older than me that wanted the place for, and I got them to come back at 10, right? But I was one of the fortunate few that got into high school, we call high school. The average Barbadian entertainer, all the guys that played steel band with and played music with in the early days, had very little education except what came naturally for Black people, especially, who use their wits, right, to achieve what they want. And there was an inborn talent that they were able to.
Yes.
I got it. I have a quick little chime in here.
Yes. Marcia was one of those people.
It a quick chime in. I hear Ken said how his brother Sidney gave up a job at Scotiabank to go tour. But let me tell you, I gave up a real good job at Barbados Radio Fusion to join Troubadours. Best thing I've ever done in my life.
Thank you.
I made more money in Troubadours. I had the most fun in my life touring with Troubadours. And Ken said he had a girlfriend who the mother told him go get a job at Cape Shepherd. I think that girlfriend mother just didn't like you. Most girls die.
actually, you know the amazing part with that?
What?
That the same lady that was telling me, sir, her other daughter is still married to Muddy Sparrow. All I know.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Let me tell you, Troubadours is one of the best things I've ever done. Playing music is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I enjoy it. I'm retired now, but let me tell you, I'm back in those days. I mean, I bought a car because of Troubadours. I couldn't get a loan working at Radio Fusion, but when I work in Troubadours, I got a loan. I bought a
all right, Bernard Yerwood has had his hand up, and I see he's actually coming on. Bernard, go ahead. Go ahead.
Everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Bernie.
Everybody, I have enjoyed listening. I wanted to get in my comment earlier when you were speaking about the hoteliers, because most of y'all would know that I would have been musical director for John King with his, and in my years leading Jagna, we did one hotel gig all of my years, and we refused to play in the hotel circuit because of the way that entertainment managers look upon entertainers of a caliber of John's caliber, and I can see that same thing existed from way back in the time of Jackie, from hearing the statement that was made. And I just wanted to share that input. And I hope that as we go forward as a country, that our hotel industry and the hoteliers will really look to get the cream of the crop of the entertainment in the hotel, so that we be able to further advance the entertainment industry in Barbados.
Correct. Well said. Well said, Bernard. And let me tell you something that is very, very true. Do you know that if you took Jackie Opel's time, and when Al Gilkes was the drummer in the Soul Kings and so on, that period, and you take today's period, this would shock you. The Troubadours and the BRC and the telcos and those bands that played in the hotels a bit got more money per night than some of the bands right now. In fact, the bands have not had a raise since 1967.
Yep, correct.
Can you imagine that? How could it be possible
I
that a
second
band
that too.
that's playing
I heard that
today-
story from Burrowes.
But this is a fact. What Book said is absolutely true.
Not only the money, Gabby, we were given rooms to change in because we used to wear uniforms.
Yes.
And drinks were sent to the rooms.
I remember, let me get personal for once. And this came from Jackie Opel, because Jackie used to insist that they treat him as an artist and not as somebody come begging for a job, right? And I remember I went to a hotel and I told them what I wanted. Well, I got it for like 4 weeks. An Indian fella, he is not really Indian, he's from Sri Lanka. He is gonna say to me, he sent for me and he said, And I don't understand why you have room and why you get drink. No other entertainer get. I said, listen, I don't want to be pugnacious or songy like that. But if that's true, you have to have two sets of rules, one for the other entertainers and one for me. I will never sing here unless I have food and drink and room, right? So make it clear in your head. And he said, I don't understand. I want contract. I said, my contract is this. Look, you see this? Verbal contract. When I tell you that, I tell you, I've already spoken to the general manager. I've already spoken to the entertainment manager. I've spoken to the food and beverage. I don't know who you is, but I am telling you that you need to understand that I have to have those things as a prerequisite to before I open my mouth at this hotel or any other hotel in Barbados or any part of the world. And I'm telling you, that kind of standard is the standard that Jackie wanted to set for entertainers in Barbados. So they used to call him miserable and he was confused, man, he was hard to get along with. He was never hard to get along with. It was just a person looking for the rights of entertainers from all back then.
Yeah, but what you say, Gabby, comes back to the question that the caller asked, the business acumen of Jackie. I mean, we're looking at his talent with songwriting and so on, but his head had to be wired totally different to be seeing the musical landscape broader than maybe the average musical artist in Barbados at the time. To seeing that the landscape was not conducive to his growth, going to Trinidad where the recording studios are, going to Jamaica where the studios are. You're hearing that when the album released, Australia wanted him. There's some vibe behind Jackie where he probably didn't want to show it, where he was operating as his own business manager and doing things not openly but secretly moving forward. I mean,
listen, let me tell you something, right? I saw that this gentleman wasn't on this program, and I'm gonna call his name. Jackie's friend like this, a man named Garfield Sobers, right? And he can give you details that most of us don't know at all about Jackie Opel, because Gary wanted to be Jackie's manager. He said, tell him, man, Jackie, let me manage you, man. I could this and that. And they were very, very close. Very close.
So when we have, we are going to have a follow through with COVID in
Please
November.
invite Sir Gary.
It will be, yes, inviting Sir Gary Ilombe, who we invited, who we're trying to get online, Richard. I want us to talk to Spooge. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to show you what Jackie said. The newspaper article with Gabby Scott, Orlando Gabby Scott in 1969. Scott asked Jackie, what is Spooge? And Jackie responded, it's a combination of reggae and calypso with a touch of Jackie Opel and the gay Troubadours added. Troubadours tell me that they dropped the name gay after a while.
I do. Yep.
Why is it called Spooge? Scott asked. Jackie says simple. S, sentimental. P, pop. O, order in music. U, us. G, go-go. E, minor. Scott replies, I am still trying to understand what he means, but if Jackie says so, it is so. Gentlemen, what is Spooge?
The best speak Barbados ever had. I will ever have.
I don't know. Original thing that we have in terms of naming a music. You see, because Jackie, he was so smart. He knew that the Jamaicans, they had the mentor, they name it mentor. They had the ska, they had the before the reggae. Rocksteady, right? And they named each one. Then they had reggae. Nowadays they have dance hall. Our business is called dub music, right? So Jackie knew, and Jackie said, "Oh yeah, well this thing that I'm coming with, I'm gonna call it Spooge." And he put all the letters together to tell you, because if you really listen and look at that, what he's trying to say, it coming from inside, it is you. It is special. It is emotional. It has a minor tone to it, something that is catchy. Because look at all of Bob Marley's big hits. Every one of them is in a minor key, you know. My biggest hit is Emerton, minor key. So all I'm saying, Jackie had that thing that people took for granted. And it is, to me, this is touching to know that at last, this giant of a man is going to get his proper place in history and his proper place in the society and his proper place in musicality, because he so well deserved all of it.
But you know, Spooge was, you know, we had another beat coming up after Spooge.
Yes.
You told me that, Ken.
Jabby. Jabby.
Jabby. Jabby.
Jabby, not Jabby, but Jabby.
Ken, Ken, did Jackie Opel teach you how to play the drums in school?
I would say not really, but he used to let us do what we want to do, right? And like, let me express our own way, and he would guide us in a way, like, you know what I mean? For example, Jackie would be singing at nighttime, for example. And as you said, he would go on the floor with the microphone. Yeah. And Jackie would start beating drums on the floor with the microphone.
Yeah.
So if you know something, copy that. That's that. So, it was a working, you know.
Had his hand up for a while. And Inspire, please speak.
Hello, good night, panelists. Good night, Dr. Burrowes. I must commend you all on this special effort and to almost implore you that you should continue in this vein with reflections upon the past, and then reflections as well upon our living artists. Now, we fully understand the rationale. Well, I don't want to say fully, we kind of understand the rationale for Jackie's intention behind Spooge. But I want to get deeper, and especially if we have some musicians in the panelists. What is the actual integral musicianship,
musicality
behind this whole thing called Spooge? What exactly is it entailing? Minors, majors, guitars. What is it? Did Jackie say anything about all of this?
The man was just a creator, period. The closest Bible to him is Eddie Grant. He would just create in such a way, apart from Spooge and apart from Jabby, you can't really call and say it was this, it was that, it was this. All you could say, it was great, because the kind of innovation that occurred there, right? You can't put a label and a thing on it and say that's what it is. Ken knows exactly what I mean. If Jackie going to go, Ken gonna listen and see, all right, let me play that then if that's what he wants. And there goes Ken. And suddenly the rest of the men gonna start with it, cha-chung, or whatever it is that they're doing. And suddenly you have something unique that has never been played or heard any place. That's
but like the Troubadours too and other groups and things added extra things to Spooge. Right. If you read how we play a Spooge, and how the Troubadours play a Spooge, and how like maybe the Gaylords from Dominica play a Spooge.
Right.
It was like it was a little different, right? So I mean, it was trying to progress, you know, but we just, I don't know, we just finished it.
Yeah, that guy asked a musician question, so he had to go and put on my Troubadours musician shirt to answer this. The Troubadours Spooge is different Spooge than any other band playing Spooge. Normally in Spooge, the guitar strums, and the major thing is that the guitar song, as though you playing this beat, is go like chicken, 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 no beef, all chicken. Then you get the bass player who plays a walking bass, and the keyboard he strums this strumming spooge. That's how the Draytons play. That's how every other band play. Troubadours don't play spooge like that. Troubadours is the original spooge band that played behind Jackie. The keyboard do not strum spooge. The guitars is a different kind of beat. A guy called Ralph Howard, Jabba, is who played the original spooge. David Dowrich and King Sidney Jones played the bass. So when they hear the Troubadours spooge on that album, Memorial Jackie Opel, listen to how they play. But then the Draytons too took the spooge and changed it. The Electrons, the Escort, every band in Barbados play their own beat to spooge. So when Jackie say it's come from in us, that's how it is. We all put our own touch to it. That's where you get spooge from. The drums, the bass, the guitar make spooge. Now I go take off my musician shirt and put on something else.
I would like to make a comment continue from Alps, because this is when I start to get interested now as a musician. Between, you could say, Jackie Opel's death and when I was about to leave school in 1975. My interest, if I would say between 1970 and 1973, I don't think Barbados, irrespective of crop over, because crop over is only is a season for 3 months. You could check the records, but between 1970 and 1974, the volume of music that was produced in Barbados between that time, I don't think we will come during that time. In terms of a ratio of months, we haven't reached that stage again. Between that period, every day from January to December, a song was being, every week a song was being released by some artists. Troubadours, Outfit, Escorts, Checkmates, the Outfit. You know what? Wait, I just want to make the point. And the creativity that was coming from each band is what Alps said. The R&B soul funk coming from the Outfit. You had the organization as well with Lloyd Wilson, bringing a whole different creativity and musicianship. You're talking about musicianship, the musicianship of the bands of that time experimenting. It was what attracted me to music. I mean, I was living in Black Rock, Ashley, and I used to store there. I could stay that now because I was young at Carrollton to see the Outfit and the Lunar 7, another band. If you look at the spooge that and upset it as well, there was a different level of musicianship and creativity coming from the spooge. But what I'm saying, it was recording, the recording industry of that time was tremendous. I mean, every minute you look around, a new song was being dropped.
But you know what?
Let it be original or let it be a copy.
But
it
you know
may be a copy. It made a copy, but there was the experimentation that they were taking. Let's look at, for example, what BRC did with Knock on Wood and All Lonesome Me. The all-lines in it, right? The groove, the Outfit took Use Me was by who? I can't remember. But look what they did with it, right? You know, I remember also the Troubadours did instrumental with playing flute.
Love Team.
Yeah. Oh, Love Team. We could go on and on. If you see what the musical arrangements of the time between that 1970 and 1973 is unbelievable.
Alja, there was competition, you know. Alja had every week had a top 10. Remember you had a top 10.
Yeah. Big Rooster had a countdown on CBC2. You remember a local countdown.
Local top 10.
That was amazing. That was revolutionary. You know, that was.
What I would like to add is that the reason for the proliferation of music between the mid-60s and the mid-70s had to do with the fact that there was very little money stirring for live performances. The hotel plant wasn't what it is now, and what little existed didn't pay much. So the only way a band or singer could earn some money was by way of recording something called a record. and our music, right? Spooge had taken the entire Caribbean by storm.
Yes.
There's no reason why reggae should have come and dominated the Caribbean.
It's true.
Fact that reggae dominated the Caribbean was that our musicians and singers, apart from the Dreadens and a few others, and after Jackie died, right, they concentrated just on putting out a spooge sound because it's going to sell across the Caribbean. But when you hear them live, the only thing you heard was that one spooge. I remember an incident where a top band of the day invited me to go to St. Lucia with them on a tour. In fact, to cover their tour, St. Lucia. The band had 2 big hits across the Caribbean, spooge hits, but nothing else. Everything else was their own, was regular music. And the night when they played in St. Lucia, the place was packed to capacity. And by the time they played a few of their tunes and then they played one of the tunes that had a spooge, they did it because the St. Lucians were just shouting, "Spooge, bitch, play spooge, bitch." And they played that tune. And they had only one left. And in between that tune and when they played next, all you could hear from the floor was, "Play spooge, we want spooge, bitch, play spooge." And it got so bad, I didn't want to get killed in St. Lucia that night. Right? So I took up the cowbell and I told the drummer in the band, I said, whatever them singing out there, those one of these semi-calypso bands, right? Like the Merryman, but not the Merryman. And I said, whatever them play, right? You play a spooge beat on them drums. And I took the cowbell and I played the cowbell spooge beat. So even if they were playing piece of Tchaikovsky, it was coming as spooge. No matter if you're playing Emerton, it was coming as spooge.
Everybody's attention. Hold on. Let
me chime in here now, Alps.
Hold on.
Let me chime in here now, right?
Yeah, I got to chime in here. Do you know back then, Barbados, I counted them. Barbados had back in the 60s and 70s, 91 bands. 91 bands. And most of them used to get work every weekend. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
Well, let me. Barbados had live music, man. Because when you go in a place like the drill hall and you go to the YMPC and you know the other place,
the band is the clash.
You know, I mean, the clash, man. You make me have BRC versus Troubadours. You can't get in there. You unless you left, you know, 6 days before or so.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to pause you. We have questions online, so we want participation. Denny's and the kid site has his hand raised. Denny's, what's the question that questions you're seeing?
One of the questions is, why is spooge only played during the month of November? I thought that was because you're discussing spooge. Now, why is spooge only now played during the month of November?
You have to check the radio stations. You don't have any control over that. Check the radio station.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Could I jump in here? Listen, could I jump in here and just add something to what Al said, which came from a direct source? In the 80s, I was doing a research on spooge, and that time word was still in place. And old man Gilkes told me that during the mid-70s, the early to the mid 70s, that spooge music from the Eastern Caribbean to the Southern Caribbean down to Suriname, down there, was outselling reggae music. So that's just a back of what Al said. He said that spooge music from the Eastern down to the Southern Caribbean, that's going through Trinidad, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, was outselling reggae music. Reggae music wasn't coming near the sales of spooge music, and that was from the source of West Indies Records, West Indies Records Limited, right? And that was just in the mid-70s.
Let me tell you something, right? My governor and when Yarding, right, were popular. Now, I had a fella called Jeffrey Grosvenor, which is Mike's brother, used to play in Troubadours, right? we came down from Canada. And my bass player at that time was a fellow called Brian Huntley, the solution. And when Brian Huntley met Mike Grosvenor, he was swear blind to meet him Michael Jackson.
Wow.
That's the first time he has seen Mike Grosvenor, and because of the spooge and the St. Lucia and the spooge, he was swear blind that he was meeting Michael Jackson.
It was all across the Caribbean. Barbadians were the stars.
Yeah.
The only place Barbadians were not respected was in the land of the birth.
Question pops up. Do you think Bajans really would be interested in spooge now? Be honest with me. Come on. You think Bajans would really want to hear, for example, if you put on a competition, say, okay, this teen talent competition, one of the genres in this teen talent is that somebody got to do or sing spooge. You really think Bajans want to hear spooge?
Thousands of Bajans, Alps. We need to revive it, and maybe you might see. May I say, Alps, 1 second. Kid Sight has had his hand up through this entire full.
How do you put it down? We heard any hand, put it down.
What would, or Denise, do we have another question before we
wait until after Kid Sight? He's had his hand up for a while.
Yes, Kid Sight.
Yeah, I just want to know that I have Ken here and Ali and Gabby here, that we get this thing chronologically set in the right order. The first full song, from what I have what I've been told and what I've researched, was You Got to Pay by Jackie Opel. Now that album that came in 1970 done by Kenny Troubadours had a different song to You Got to Pay. And I think that what happened in 1973, when the Draytons bought their Raw Spooge album and called it Spooge Revival, that they used You Got to Pay as their prototype. Because that had the fatunk, but that album that came in 1970 had a more groovier kind of song, a more commercial type of song, full song, done by the Troubadours.
Yep.
So, and another thing was, say, what happened between 1970 and 1973, because the Draytons bought their Raw Spooge album in 1973, causing the Spooge Revival. So I think, from what my research says, that nothing happened between Jackie's death in 1970 and the Draytons Revival in 1973.
That's not so.
Well, Mark Williams told me the only boy that keep going with Spooge after Jackie Opel died was Joseph Nice.
No, man.
So we got to check it out. I'm talking from 1970 to the Draytons album Raw Spooge in 1973, because that signaled the Spooge Revival. We need to get the chronological thing in order.
No. If I could be wrong, but I just mentioned to you that during that period up to 1973, 74, everybody was doing a spooge song. I mean,
1973, correct?
No, from before. I started from 1970 to 1973.
But we don't have a discography, you know. We have not established a discography. So the question is up in the air.
Yeah.
The research shows that the first revival was the Draytons 2 Raw Spooge album in 1973, and then all started from there.
I don't know where you would have read that.
No, the Draytons Raw Spooge album was 1973.
Yeah, but
ain't no reading nothing.
Yeah, but it wasn't a revival. That's what I'm saying, because there was a lot of spooge. There was more spooge going on than
not use the word revival. Spooge was initiated or revived after Jackie died in 70, but that album, the Draytons 2 1973, that started that whole thing.
In other words,
Dave,
what you're saying is that there was no spooge music at all for 3 years between 70 and 73.
It doesn't seem so.
I think, if I could say something, I think what happened is that Barbadian musicians were accustomed to only doing singles, and all the popularity of the spooge music across the Caribbean, right?
Singles
was singles. Don't matter who it was singles. Whether it was in a band or individual, it was usually a single. Jackie did an album with the Troubadours, and then the Draytons came with an album. I can't remember anybody else in between apart from Joseph Niles with his religious thing doing an album.
Wow.
So you're confirming what Mark Williams said. That's what he said.
but there was a lot of music being put out.
Correct, a lot. Not albums.
Not album fulls, but
singles.
Gentlemen, questions coming. Allison, who is going on Facebook. Allison, do we have a question coming from Facebook?
Yeah, but
I can't hear you, Allison. Okay. Gentlemen, I'm going to move to the final portion, which is the legacy. So I'm going to share the screen again. This is our final portion, legacy. Legacy. On the 23rd of February, 2001, Richard Stoute says, I am unofficially declaring that day, 9th March, as Jackie Opel Day, since nothing special is ever really done on that important date, unquote. Quoting Trevor Marshall, 2002, as the years go by, Jackie becomes even more revered for his creativity and musical endeavors, but at the same time, he and his creation, Spooge, become equally controversial. Third quote to look at, and then we open to the floor. Eric Seeley, 2007. During Opel's lifetime, there were many people who treated him as a social outcast. He was a victim of society. He was often ridiculed. Gentlemen, discussion. Legacy. We now know that we have several since Richard, and I'm sorry that Richard didn't come on with us, but since Richard made that statement, I see many occasions where someone has a celebration or a memorial for Jackie on this day. I'm going to turn over to Al to Aja, because last year we had an official announcement of a Jackie Opel Day. Yes, Aja, on his birthday, the 27th of August.
Yeah.
So we're kind of moving on from where we were stuck late 20th century, early 21st century. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first I would just start to make the point that when you celebrate an icon, you don't celebrate death. You celebrate birth. You celebrate the birth date of an icon, if you really want to say, you know. But I want to go back to 2018. This is how the journey sort of happened. But if you could remember, in early 2018, there was a surge of crime in Barbados. The youth were really at each other, right? You know, not far from where I'm living, even one of the young guys, a good writer, good songwriter, good rapper, but chose the wrong life, and he was shot, right? You know, and I said, you know something, I really got to do something about this, and I want to use Jackie's voice. Now, my favorite song by Jackie Opel, which has haunted me, I can't say why, has haunted me for nearly 20 years, is Live and Let Live, right? I mean, I'm not a singer, but I go to sleep sometimes with that voice, tra-la-la-la-la, live and let live. And I said, I'm going to bring Jackie's voice back using that Live and Let Live to speak to the young people. And I will use one of my poems. And the idea came from a rapper in the United States using I Am Coming Out, which is Diane Ross track, and he rapped with her singing. So I went to Lori, my music director, and said, this is what I want to do. I want you to sample Jackie voice singing Live and Let Live. I'm going to do this poem. Do you know who you are? Do you know who you is, to speak to the young people? So he said yes, and we work on the track. And while we work on the track, I said, I need to create a video to go along with the track. And I started to shoot the video, and I came up with the idea, I would like Jackie, besides Jackie's voice, so is the actual voice of the Troubadours, right? But besides the voice, I would like Jackie to be in the video, but obviously can't be. So they came up with the idea of contacting Von Hall, who is a visual artist, very good digital. And while shooting the music video, he was digitally painting the portrait of Jackie Opel. So hence we have this, you know, and then chain reaction again. While the video is being shot, he said, you know something, innocent just releasing a track and a video of Jackie Opel and I. For years now, all I hearing that they're doing the one upgrade the grade, the whole shows upgrade the grave and clean it up and so on. I say, you know something, I'm going to tackle this thing. And the first body they call is Ken for two reasons. Not only with the Troubadours, the use of the voice, but it's the Troubadours voice recording, although we had to do something with the music because of the timing going up and down. And also the grave in Westbury is owned by the Jones family, right? You know, immediately Ken say yes, man, but in cost, right? So I tell Ken, we'll work out the cost, right? I'm not going to let anything deter this situation. So Ken called one of his guys who put together a cost, and when we heard the cost, I said, Ken, the first body going to is COSCAP, and they called Erica Smith, the CEO of COSCAP. And within a second, for the time I said what it is, she said yes. COSCAP would pay the cost of the stone on behalf of the musicians of Barbados, right? You know. So hence then on August the 7th, then we did the rededication of the tomb, and the rest is history. But then I said, you know something, let's go further than that. I said, on his birthday, on the 27th of August, I'm going to call all the radio stations and tell them that we do a Jackie Opel day, only Jackie music on that day. And all of them supported the day on that day in 2018. But for a Jackie Opel day to stick, officials them got to be on board. Yes. It has to be, it can't address and so on. I can't go and begging the radio station every year to play Jackie song. It got to be official. So then last year, what the Honorable John King, who is the Minister responsible for culture in the Prime Minister's office, said, you know, the same portrait that is in my music video, let's take that portrait on on his birthday last year. And again, Ken was involved, you know, and that portrait from the video then is two-sided and is on the head of the tomb, which could be seen within the cemetery or from the road. When you drive down by like Westbury Road, it's full in your face, right? You know, and then the cabinet decided on the same day, which would be the Thursday, that Jackie Opel Day would be no official day, August the 27th from this year, right? You know, so that video, that track of that idea of using Jackie's voice with the poem to speak to the young people in Barbados sort of brought us to today, I guess, you know.
Thank you. When you have a family member,
the official day is a holiday. It's going to be a holiday.
He wasn't clear on that. I guess a lot of Barbadians are watching this. I'm sure that the Honorable John King may be listening as well. I think some clarification. It's an official day. I don't know what form it would take. I don't know if it's a public holiday, but I guess COVID would have probably put the brakes on to some extent on the whole idea. But COVID will not put a brake on the energy that I will have to make this thing going the right way. You know?
I just want to make one point. Mm-hmm. When a family member dies, there is the act of remembering on the date of the death. It comes in, you feel the emotions, maybe the universe brings it up. From my research, preparing for this session, every year or every other year, someone did something for the 9th of March. I welcome the birthday, the 27th, but I have seen efforts being made for the 9th of March.
I think you still have to remember that tragic day, which robbed Barbados, the Caribbean, the world of a musical genius. But when you're celebrating the life now, continuing to lifetime, the birthday, you have to celebrate his birthday as a celebration. You know?
Right. I'm going to share a couple of things in the chat. Stefan Walcott, Dr. Stefan Walcott, sent me a message. He's been waiting for his comments online. My research agrees with Stoute as well. What were some of the spooge singles between 1970 to 1973? He isn't seeing them. Dr. John Hunt says in the chat, so was there a signature instrumentation that represented spooge? the walking bass, the rhythm guitar, and the cowbell. Yes, now is the time for spooge. I'm going to ask Denise or Allison to share some of the questions or comments that have been coming online because we're winding down now to the end. So let's have the audience response. Denise?
Another question was, what role did disco music play in undermining spooge? Margaret Gill, she says that Camel Brathwaite and a Harrisonian group played jazz on Resin Fusion and were immediately pulled after one session. A Barbadian proposing to sing in Jamaica and being initially laughed is part of the same thing. People like Jackie, Al Gilkes in journalism, Gabby, etc., bring levels of leadership from the folk that deserve recognition. Thank you all, including Elizabeth, for her work.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to answer those questions that you have so far before I speak on some of the other comments. Yeah.
Let's leave with those two. Disco music impact on spooge, is that possible?
Disco music impacted on all music in Barbados because everybody moved away. Because prior to spooge, it was all American music, soul music, the good old standards, the Nat King Coles and all those that heap of people who provided that music in the 50s and the 60s. And then the Jamaican and the Barbadian music and Calypso. Remember, Sparrow made his jump to fame in 1959, going to the 1960s. So Calypso out of Trinidad, ska and rocksteady then out of Jamaica, and then subsequently spooge out of Barbados controlled the whole thing. But then the Beatles came along, and then the skaters was skate on, and every place was a skating place.
Yeah,
and then all the other music that was coming out of England and other places is what helped to stifle, I would say kill, but to stifle our music. And then the performers weren't getting much work again in the hotel spaces because the hoteliers decided it was cheaper, right, to hire a man with a sound system than to hire a band.
My goodness, the the machine that you keyed in everything and suddenly
technology.
The 70s and perhaps other music forms that affected spooge.
I want to mention here. I want to mention here that the Dread and Stoute, if my memory served me right, it may have been at the turn of the late 70s. It could be the late 70s. Created a group called Chapter 6, right? If my memory served me right, Andy Weeks was on drums, Willie Thorne on bass, but they created an interested. I don't know where the idea of the beat came from, but the whole dynamic of spooge, the Dread and Stoute shifted, right? And I guess a record was made, but it was Chapter 6, the Dread and Stoute, and they created a different dynamic to spooge again, which when you really analyze that musically and rhythmically, it was probably one of the innovations. I don't know if I'll remember or think. Chapter 6. With the Dread and Stoute singing up front, but had this new band with a different sound. And I don't know if, but when my memory serves me now saying that innovatively and musically and rhythmically and what they were doing and the strum, it was a whole different progressive direction that the Dread and Stoute was carrying spooge in. I don't know.
Called Everyday's People?
No, Everyday's People work too, right? But by then y'all were in Canada, but I know for sure it was called Chapter 6.
Okay.
And you can ask Weeks about it at Desmond. But and this is just responding to the musicians that are online, Stefan Walker and these people. It is an interesting development. Just like as I said earlier, that the outfit you know, it's been a different schools, the Troubadours, the organization. But I think Chapter 6 was around the end of the 70s or so, you know.
I think we were in London.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Never heard of Chapter 6, but
Chapter 6, man, yeah.
Preparing for this discussion today, I learned so many bands I didn't even know existed because I spoke to Alps when he said to me 90, and he literally listed everyone. Yep. And I fallen off my chair going 90? Yep. We have questions, sir. We're wrapping up now. So Denise, what were the other questions or comments as we wrap up? It's 9 o'clock. We've been going at it for a while, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Denise.
I'm going to hand it over to Alison. She's got a few questions she'd like to pose.
Yes, Alison, thank you.
Yes, Dr. Burrowes. We have a number of questions and comments. I'll see what I can get through in the short space of time. I'm a Jamaican and I salute Jackie Opel for his contribution to our music. Would you agree with me that Jackie Opel can be classified as a forgotten hero both in Barbados and Jamaica? Another question, wasn't Jackie's mother born in Jamaica and did she not come to Barbados when she was pregnant with him at age 15? Did Jackie ever tour Canada?
Yes.
Go ahead at this point and I can get back to the comments after.
Forgotten hero?
Well, I don't know about Jamaica, but I don't think he's ever been forgotten in Barbados. There's never been any movement apart from what's happening now to get him officially recognized in perpetuity. But Bajans always remember Jackie. He's never forgotten. His music has never been forgotten. No matter what band comes out or any entertainer, you will always hear a Jackie Opel song. But I think my biggest disappointment as far as carrying on Jackie's legacy was the group called the Merry Men. The Merry Men was the biggest thing that Barbados ever had. And I loved them. I still loved them. I was very friendly with them and I loved them. I went on tour to different parts with them. But I am yet to hear one song in Spooge by the Merry Men. The Merry Men were touring Canada, touring England, touring Denmark, all the countries in the world with hit after hit after hit, but all in their own Chingaling Calypso beat. I think every Merry Men had added Spooge. Just like I am disappointed that Rihanna is yet to include a Spooge song or Spooge beat in any of her music. I think if Jackie is to continue living, quote unquote, right? People who have received or achieving international status has to remember that Barbados, whether they like Jackie or not, that Barbados has a native beat called Spooge. Even if it is modified or whatever, get it out there.
So you want me to work on contact Rihanna. What about Rihanna singing a Spooge song with Troubadours backing? You want me to work on that for you?
Alison, what are the other questions? Because we're winding down. Alison, go ahead.
Okay, these are comments. The Troubadours played Spooge with a sophistication that was different. And I think that if Jackie and the Troubadours were able to continue, it would have developed to a level of sophistication that could rival reggae. I was 12 years old and would listen to the Troubadours and Ivory when they performed at the Caribbean Pepper Pot. They were my favorite bands. Bajan culture has not explored Spooge and developed the genre.
No, I tell my sister don't call him, you know. That's very nice. Margaret Odin don't call in, but what that person said is really nice and very true.
With all respect to Troubadours,
listen to our instrumentals. It's a totally different Spooge than what other bands play because we do it differently. Raymond Blake, our musical director, we play Spooge differently. And the point I was trying to make, I'm not sure if Bajans back then like our Spooge. They used to like the real raw Spooge from Drayton's and Escort. They used to like that. But when we played Stoute, they used to all just stand and look at us. They would never even dance to it. I don't know why.
You had them enthralled, that's why. But I wanted to say something quickly, Marcia, before you go.
Yes.
Jackie has some children, and nobody speaks about his children. I know Rhonda, I know the other girl, I can't remember her name now, and his sister, Anita, right? And when we had the rededication, I stood next to Anita at the,
He doesn't have a brother as well?
Yes, he has a brother, Ralph or something like that. I can't remember, but anyway, but Anita, when I stood next to her in the cemetery, she looked and she said, Gabby, I'm so glad that something has been done for my brother, but I can't stay because I'm feeling emotional. And man, we were talking. Oh, she went, right? I mean, it was almost at the end of the whole ceremony and all that. But, you know, Jackie has family, and it hurts that, like Al said, here's a man that sold over 1 million records in one contract. God knows how many more millions that he might have sold. And none of these children had any kind of benefit from it. And I think that that's sad and is wrong.
I would like to know who getting the royalties.
That's correct, Ken, correct.
But don't forget, in those days in Jamaica, you got $20 for recording the tune. That was it, nothing more. The producer got all the royalties.
Wow.
Pay you for singing the tune, and it's all over.
Oh, gentlemen, we're winding down, so I'm gonna, Allison, did you have other comments to share with the panel before we do our final?
Yeah, I'll read 2 final comments from Zoom and one from Facebook. Now that we are reflecting on Jackie's legacy, we should recognize that he is still an inspiration to artists today. As recently as last year, there was an excellent tribute album, Jackie's Son, released by Sun Rock, a local rap artist. And from Facebook, I listen to Vintage Caribbean on channel 649 every day on Flow TV, and the only Bajan artists frequently played are Lord Radio and the Draytons too. I have only heard Jackie once or twice. Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, and Haiti dominate the presentations. I remain puzzled. And finally, from Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Eugene Barato, congratulations on this incredible panel discussing the life and contributions of Jackie Opel. I do not have a question. I just want to say thank you. And that's it from me.
If I could say one final thing.
Yes.
I'm always trying to find work by Jackie from outside of Barbados. So I go on whatever search engine, YouTube, etc., and I put in Jackie Opel, and I see a lot of music by different people or by Jackie himself that I didn't know about, especially a lot of songs of Jamaica. And then one night I came across a name that wasn't English. It was actually a Portuguese band, right? And the only music they play is Jackie Opel music, where you don't, unless you know a little bit of Spanish or Portuguese, you wouldn't understand the words. But they play 2 or 3 sessions, all Jackie Opel music. And I cannot believe it. I still don't believe it, but they dedicate their life as musicians to Jackie Opel's music.
Wow.
And I've never heard about them in Barbados, nowhere else apart from coming across that book on the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The question that
final comment. Yes, Ken, go ahead.
The question that they may ask you, they may want to know how come the Troubadours didn't continue playing spooge in Barbados, but I will let the public know that we had done everything in Barbados, so we decided to get on a plane, go to England without knowing with the first job, which we decided to just take the world, and we went to London. So that's why we were not in the spooge bracket anymore, because we decided we want to go and make it overseas, and we went to London, and we went for 6 weeks, and up to now the Godfellas still up there, right? And then we come back home, and because there was nothing more you could do, we were playing everywhere, you know. So we just wanted to expand. Then we did it, come back and reform, and went to Canada. And Alps could tell you, that's why we didn't really follow up the spooge, like recording all the time. We were trying to do things international, you know, to get our name out there. And I know we opened a lot of doors for a lot of groups, like in Canada, because we did things like playing at Ontario Place and all that. You know, respect only people like Chicago and Blood, Sweat and Tears and those bands played. You know, so we were trying to go out there and, you know, like spread Barbados, you know what I mean? Spread Barbados on the map, you know? So, and we took the gamble, as I could tell you, we gambled because we didn't know where our first job was coming from. We just got on a plane and went. You know what I mean? And that's it in a nutshell.
Final comments. Maybe Al, seeing that Alps, he passed it on to you. Final comments, Alps, as we wind up or down.
Well, I have, in my lifetime, I have never really looked at myself as achieving very much in life. But one thing I'm very proud of is, I'm not sure if it really threw me, but I pushed really hard. When Troubadours first came back to Barbados, after years being overseas in Canada and all over touring, we came back here and we had a big fete at a place called Sunset Crest. And that was the big talk of the town. So Corbin was dragged on CBC TV to do an interview. And Doug Hoyt said to me, okay, so what would you like to see happen in Barbados as far as Troubadours is concerned and Jackie? I said, one thing I would really like to happen, somebody should name something in Barbados after Jackie Opel. Even if it's a road, a street, I just do something for Jackie. At that time, a guy called David Bowen was the Minister of Culture. He listened to me and he said, Alps, great idea. And up to today, I'll take the credit for it, even if it's not, he would say it wasn't me. I'm the one who would take the credit. He finally named the amphitheater down Cheapside after Jackie Opel. That to me was, not for me, but that was a great achievement. Because apart from that, and his grave, there's nothing else in Barbados named after Jackie Opel. That's my great.
Quick, Marcia, I want to say quickly, very quickly. Yes, I just want to say this. First of all, thank everybody for coming on, and thank my dear darling friend Udine for her great comments. But I want to say this, that which was mentioned about the Jackie Opel being recognized, we should definitely fight to take it the next step to let it be an official holiday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Passing on to Aja, who fought 27th. Go ahead, Aja.
Yeah. Well, as I said, you know, it was officially announced last year, August 27, that this year, August 27, would be official Jackie Opel Day. Let's hope that, as Gabby said, that it will be official holiday, right? You know, I just want to close by going back to Kid Sight and Dr. Stefan, right, about 1973. Remember, I said between the mid 70s, let me say 1973 and the early 80s, what the old man Vicky said. Spooge was outselling reggae music in Eastern and Southern Caribbean. So that period from 1973, let me call it to 1983, a decade, right? Let's say that it might not be fully 10 years, but from 1973 through the 70s, Spooge just took off, right? You know, and if you want to mention the Draytons too, as playing a prominent role from 1973 to that, it has to be taken into consideration. But the point is, it was that period from the 1973 to the early 80s, reggae wasn't sounding near what Spooge was doing. So I just want to close with that. which
Yes,
then even show.
but his question though, between
Yes.
70 and 73, what happened before in that
Okay.
period?
In that period, right. But 73 was, and if the Draytons who want to be the credit for that, but also, as I said, the Draytons did not stick to that. That chapter 6 need to be banned. And I think the recorded needs to be taken into consideration, some dynamics that was still happening with Spooge, you know, at that time, right? You know, so I just wanted to state that.
Thank you, Aja. I'm handing over to Al, and then I want to end with the words of Jackie. Al.
I just want to thank you guys at UE for having conceptualized and made this program happen. Without programs like these, or artists, not only music artists, but artists in all forms, would rise up today and die tomorrow and then be forgotten. There are a lot of others, apart from Jackie, who have dominated this Barbadian and, in some instances, Caribbean and international scene, but they've gone and nobody hears about them, nobody remembers them, nobody knows them. So I am very thankful and happy that this seems to be moving in the right direction, where at least one of our artists will be forever immortalized and be remembered, and that my great-great-grandchildren will one day be able to say, you know, this guy who used to live at the same time when my great-great-grandfather was alive, his name was Jackie Opel.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Al. I want us to close off, so I'm sharing my screen with the words of Jackie Opel. Final. So in that interview that I keep returning to, conducted by Orlando Gabby Scott in 1969, Scott ended the interview with these words: Jackie, thanks very much for sparing your time. Before you go, is there a message for your fans? Jackie responded, certainly. Without them, there is no Jackie Opel. And I thank them for the way in which they have stood by me, especially with the Spooge beat. Allow me to offer my thanks, the university's thanks. First of all, the references that were used in the PowerPoint. I consulted the Barbados Advocate, the Daily Nation, the Sunday Sun, and e-paper Barbados Today. That's where we were able to locate that shot of the dance, Can't Catch Me. Dr. John Hunt found that. I also referenced the words of Al Gilkes in his piece, The Memorable Jackie Opel, which can be found at the back cover of the album, The Memorable Jackie Opel. We offer thanks to the Dean, Dr. David Acombo, Dean, Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, for welcoming everyone who's come online. We thank our panelists, Aja, Al Gilkes, Alps, Corbin, Ken Jones, Lady Gabby. Richard came on and Richard fell out, and we were trying to find Richard and Mark, but thank you very much for agreeing. And we do have the intention of doing a bigger focus, a more concentrated focus in November, the month of independence, COVID notwithstanding. I'd like to thank the UWA Jackie Opel Committee, Marcia Burrowes, Henderson Carter, Sylvia Henry, John Hunt, Chelston Lovell, Andrew Millington, and Stefan Walcott. I am offering thanks to Alps, Corbin, Ken Jones, and Sid Jones. They provided the names of that shot we saw of the Troubadours from 11th March 1970. Thanks also to Al Gilkes, who granted permission for the use of the photo, the funeral, 11 March 1970. Thanks to Professor Mike Allen, consulted with him constantly. May I say, Professor Mike Allen and I served as co-supervisors for Dr. Elizabeth Watson, and we're very interested in having her work published, and he provided the album cover. I especially thank the staff of the reference section. On Friday, I went into the public library hunting, and they said, yes, their machine wasn't working, but if you know the reference section, there are files and files, and they found files for me to use. Thank you to Ms. Watson for granting permission for the use of the photo of her mom. Miss Rita Gay, who is a PhD candidate in cultural studies, she conceptualized the poster that was advertised. She designed the PowerPoint here. I gave her the PowerPoint literally, as I keep saying, like you're making cuckoo, you hand over the cornmeal, the okras, and the water, and it's amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Allison and Nicole, for working with us today, and also Denise, who worked with us, consulting the Zoom chat and the Facebook chat. Thank you especially to Miss Camille Russell, who worked very assiduously on the marketing, and Mr. Eugene Samuel, who I would constantly call today and even work tonight, bringing on our panelists. And we must end with higher and higher. Gentlemen.
Yes.
At one stage, we had over 100 persons online.
Wow.
I have just done the official sign off. Guess what? We still have 72 persons online. Is it that there are still questions out there, and would you entertain them or comments if these individuals?
I would. Is there anybody online from Winnipeg, Manitoba? Anybody online from Canada?
Yeah, Prince Cape said it was nice.
Yeah, I saw Prince. Anybody from Canada?
We don't know if they were here. I know we were supposed to have individuals join us from England.
Okay.
And we look forward to welcoming everyone again in the November bar COVID. I noticed some things in the chat. David Dowrich says, Ken, be reminded that when we played at Ontario Place, it was for Caribbean Week.
Yes.
And we played Spooge, then among other genres. David Dowrich also said, we did a second set at the clubs in Canada, which included a Jackie Opel medley.
Yes, he's right.
I have two comments here on on Facebook.
Yes.
One is from Harold Tell. Everybody in the music knows Harold. He says, I have on tape a technician who did Jackie's first ever recording done at Radio Fusion. And there's everything with radio distribution. His name is Billy Chase.
Who's that,
and then he also says, I also have Eric
beginning to end it, definitely.
Speaking about taking Jackie to his first ever tour to St. Vincent.
And people
oh wow. There's someone coming in. GPAD 510.1 FHD.
Bonus by ordering in response to this advertisement, get a
Pen
with your order. The Quick Stick Pen is your on-the-go solution to help prevent stains from adhering to your routine or even after smoking. And in addition to saving up to 40% on your purchase.
Sir, you're going to have to mute your microphone because the radio is coming through. Any other comments from anyone? I'm told there's some comments in the question, Q&A. Sorry, gentlemen. Q&A. I don't know if you can see it. This is a comment. The same question that existed in the hotel setup to recent years, where the entertainment managers and hotel managers look down on entertainment entertainers, only looked at facilities that hoteliers house the entertainers. This is a dialogue, a discussion, respect. Oh, sorry. Can we get women as part of the celebration of Jackie? The funeral pictures have had to have women among them. There are very few funeral pictures, Margaret. Actually, there's a comment that, but we will keep digging. Glenville, was there any thought of creating a musical based on Jackie's life? John and Stefan Walcott have begun a musical. If John or Stefan are here, this is interesting. This is like Lyman, seriously. So we've had the first end, and we're now going to have a second end of the program. John or Stefan are online, no, but I do believe that there was a musical they were producing for Carrie Festa Trinidad that wasn't accepted, that they might work, they will continue working on. Any other comments, gentlemen? And there's still 67 people with us.
I think there's one if we have another disappointment, if we have another big disappointment is the fact that Jackie did a lot of live TV in Barbados. He would also done a lot of live TV in Jamaica, but there's nowhere between Jamaica and Barbados where you can find 1 inch of video with Jackie performing. Yeah, everything about Jackie is a still photograph. I've searched the web from A to Z, and there's nothing at all about Jackie. I've spoken to friends in Jamaica, can't find it. But the only person I believe probably would have had something in their library would have been the late Roy Bayer. But
yeah.
Yes.
I believe he's the only person who would have it.
Yes, I've heard that as well, Al. I've heard that as well. So I'm hoping for November we track some things down. I have asked CBC Grafton Maskell, who is in the archival space of CBC, to look to see what's there for Jackie, but we probably have a greater cohesive understanding. But as we move forward, we will conduct rigorous research in preparation for November, and hopefully something might turn up. Someone might have captured something that may come to the surface again. Gentlemen, we are still at 64 persons. So this, our audience has remained with us. Is there anyone who wants to come on and speak to anyone, to the panel? There's 63 of you now.
There's a guy called Mr. Walter Edie online. Is he still up there trying to? You see Walter Edie keep asking for, he has some questions for us, but I can't find him.
Denise, I don't know if Denise is still here. Denise, are you here? Or Allison, are you seeing
He
it?
left. He left the group. He was online, but he's left.
Okay. That was our teacher. That was our teacher.
Yeah.
He
grew up in Barbados. He now lives in New York.
Yes, he taught King Jones and I Foundation.
Whoa. Yeah. The diaspora was on. the discussions were, as we would say, hot. I trying to bring you back to the questions. Okay, there's a reminder. Jackie had a brother named Harold, who migrated to the UK. Harold was unable to be at the funeral because he migrated just before. And he's since passed away, but Jackie's, I think at one stage you were discussing the family, Jackie's family, and there was a brother, Harold, who migrated to the UK.
He has a sister who works at Kensington Oval. You can't miss her because she is just
like Jackie.
A daughter. She's just as sure as he was.
A daughter.
Sorry, a daughter.
Gil has raised her hand. She has a question, Margaret. Margaret.
You have to ask her to unmute.
Okay, Margaret, please unmute.
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
We're still.
Yes. The question that I have is, I want to bring back the excellent point that Gabby made about the returns in terms of royalties, in terms of the value that was created by Jackie's music, for that monetary value to be returned to his family. So I want to find out whether the government and with cost cap can't do something about that.
Wow.
as I mentioned earlier, in those days in Jamaica, where most of that money would have been paid, the producers, the record producers, they paid the artists a lump sum, a small lump sum, $20 US or whatever, for the record, for recording. After that, everything that was made from the recording, the record, belonged to the producer, the
publisher.
label,
Yeah.
the public.
Yeah.
The art never got anything. You can talk to like people like Barris Hammond, and they will give you the stories that they experienced growing up and singing for nothing, as big as they are now, singing for nothing in those days.
Oh.
You are 100% correct. I was present in Jamaica when a certain well-known artist signed it with a very well-known Jamaican artist who made Caribbean music his forte. And there were about 10 of them that day. Each one of them got 500 US. And that was the end of any royalties that they would ever get from those recordings. And these recordings were selling thousands and thousands of copies in Japan, because believe it or not, Japan was the place that was buying the most Caribbean music, whether it be calypso or whether it was reggae. And that artist, publisher, producer had no qualms about it. It was like, what they want, I'm giving them $500. And outside of his studio was this long line of guys, over 100 guys, and only about 5 of them that he accepted. They would come and they chant on the one rhythm. And if you like it, he give them the $500 they sign, and it clearly states that they have no other part of that thing in terms of royalties and stuff like that, where that recording was concerned.
You sure that was 500 Jamaican dollars?
No, it was 500 US dollars, because he was confident that when he does that and he give them that $5,000, he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars in Japan. So he didn't, the $5,000 was neither here nor there with him. And when I watched that, I said, my God, how you could do that? I mean, it's like some of the guys chanted and went back home. I mean, I saw barefoot Jamaicans coming from the countryside, from Mandeville and other places, coming into that yard and hoping to get the chance to chant on this rhythm. And the ones that were accepted were given 500 US, signed the contract, please don't come back here anymore, don't call me, don't nothing at all. And the songs, some of those songs were popular even here in the Caribbean. So what he's saying is true, Jackie. With Jackie, it must have been really hard out of Coxon and whoever else he recorded with there to be recognized. And the other important point is somebody was asking about how Jamaicans view Jackie Opel. Well, I had a friend named Johnny Johnson when I was living in New York, and he came to my house and he put on a Jackie Opel 45. I hear him, hey, Gabby, man, you really respect Jamaican music, man. Me, I love that song, man. I say, yeah, you know, he's from Barbados. Why go here? No, man, Jackie Opel, Jamaican, man. Me know him, man. Me see him by Cox on record, them, man. He will sing with the Skatalites. I say, yes, but he's from Barbados and he is from my neighborhood in Chapman's Lane, Emerton. Gabby, go here, man. No, man. And he argued with me for about 3 weeks until there was something that happened on the radio. Oh, Neville Bushell played a Jackie Opel song and said, from my island, Barbados, the great Jackie Opel. Then and only then did my friend Johnny Johnson believe that Jackie Opel was a Barbadian and not a Jamaican.
Yes, that continues. That Elizabeth, when she was conducting.
Another Barbadian who is like that is Joe Niles. Most Jamaicans would tell you that Joe Niles is from Jamaica.
Yes, another Barbadian, Gabby, Dennis Bovell. I must say, I thought he was Jamaican until I attended a do at the High Commission to Barbados in London. And I looked at the program and said, I saw that Dennis Bovell was the headline in it. And I thought, Dennis Bovell is Jamaican. And of course, the first thing he said was, no joke. I want to thank Jackie Opel, who inspired me as a Barbadian to sing. And I'm a what? Dennis Bovell, Lovers Rock Man, who I hope was online or was supposed to be online with us
But
tonight.
I spoke with, I messaged Dennis up to today. I haven't heard back from him yet, but knowing Dennis, I gonna hear him before the weekend for sure.
Yes, gentlemen, this is almost 3 hours we've been going. I want to say,
I need to go. I need to say goodbye because I have to go to the bathroom.
Also, you're still live on Facebook.
Jill, nice seeing you. Been great seeing you. Jill, good to see you. Mighty Gabby. You see, Gabby, you and I, one day we'll talk about how I first met Gabby. Gabby is an interesting character, one of the best, nicest guys. Ken Jones, who cares about Ken Jones? Who else we got on there? All the people that were on there. Marcia, it was fun. I hope you had fun. I had fun.
I did. I actually, Alps, may I say something?
Yes.
The change of clothes, did we see?
Oh, I had to see it? I think I did. But listen, when Rihanna is changed 4 times. I think I changed 4 times. I changed 4 today.
I hope you change your pants.
Huh?
I hope you change your pants because you're talking, but you got to go to the washroom.
Well, listen, I told people online that I like Zoom because Zoom, you can wear anything on top. And if you all don't believe me, I have on swimming trunks.
We don't need to, we believe you.
You know?
We're live on Facebook.
Okay. All the Facebook people, everybody, it's been fun. I enjoyed it. People messaged me and said I had a good time. I had a wonderful time, but it's now for me to go to your washroom, have a cup of tea, some cheese and soda bakes. I go on, bye-bye.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Alps. Gentlemen.
I should be a comedian.
That's what my told me.
Can I give you one final story that demonstrates how great Jackie was?
Yes.
You have time? There was a Barbadian. I don't know if Gabby remembers him, but he was relative of the Millers, right? And he was living in Sweden, but he was into entertainment and he had this monster hit. It was #1 all across Europe, and it had come across the Atlantic and was making waves in the US. And he came to Barbados on holiday and to see his family, etc., etc. And while here, he decided to do a little show. And in those days, one of the big venues was a place called Piley's Place. Gabby was the name of it?
Brandon. Yeah, I know Piley.
Right? And he was booked there for that night for this big show. And I mean, it was a show, packed place, packed to capacity. And Jackie was obviously the intro act. But when Jackie finished singing and performing, this guy, you can't remember his name, but I was doing the MCing. He came to me.
Emil.
Huh?
Emil was his name, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But he called me, he says, Al, I am not going on that stage. I said, oh, me, you're not going on the stage. Will the people come to hear you? He says, I can't sing after what I've just seen and heard. That's the greatest talent I've ever seen in my life. And I've been touring the world for the last several years, and I've never seen anybody perform or sing like that. Every go there, I'm gonna look like an idiot. I said, but the people still, you got to go there and sing. He said, no, Al, I'm not. I said, all right, let me tell you what to do. You see what you're telling me? Go out there and before you sing a note, tell those people exactly what you just told me, that you have just seen the greatest entertainer in your life in any part of the world. Just words to that effect. And if he had done that, he would have got thrown off the stage. But when he said that, the whole place just erupted, right? And everybody had him then as a true star, because he just said what Jackie was to him. And that made everybody feel so good because the recognition that Jackie and by extension Barbados was getting from an international star was beyond belief.
Thank you, Al. I'm just going to say a couple of things. Peter Allen sent us a message. Peter Allen said we would have recorded him on film, we being CBC, and that we must have CBC dig through the film archives as against just going perhaps to short video clips. I hope it has not been compromised in storage. That's what Peter sends to us. So we may have film footage of Jackie, but it's locating it and restoring it if needed. Someone came in to you saying we're still live on Facebook. Angela Trotman is on Facebook. That's a student from university. Alps, I am here from Canada.
Oh, there you go.
I really don't. Alps, I am here from Canada. Very happy to hear Jackie will continue to be remembered.
That's it.
I don't know who it is. They just sent it on Facebook. It sent it through Zoom. I am, gentlemen, we are going to have to wrap up. We still have 50-something individuals, but we have been literally going for 3 hours. My team, my assistant team, I want to thank them who've been tracking comments. And are there any other comments as we wrap up? Denise or Allison, because we're wrapping up now. Our second wrap up.
There was something I found very interesting in the discussion when they were talking about younger people not getting involved with spooge and not doing any spooge songs, and Rihanna, for instance, not doing a spooge song. But Asiba here says, I took a spooge song to a studio in Barbados. The producer said to me that he does not know spooge, which is unbelievable. So I don't know if it's that they're being discouraged, or maybe they need someone from spooge generation to come and help them or encourage them. I don't know, but or maybe just spooge as a genre needs a little bit more marketing.
Okay.
Well, every time in here, I'll say this much. Troubadours, the band that first plays spooge behind Jackie, will always continue to play spooge no matter where we perform. We will always have spooge in our repertoire. But I am totally convinced that Bajans are no longer into spooge. I'm the only one who said it. I could be wrong. I usually am. But Bajans are not really into spooge. Play some dub reggae for them, or play some Marcia, Montana, because sort of gone crazy. Spooge, Bajan Hollywood is that. And most of the people in our day, most of our people that came to hear us, I always tell Ken this. Troubadours is the only one of the oldest bands in the Caribbean. We're still playing. And most of the people that enjoy spooge in our day, in the Bajan parlance, all the dead out.
We still enjoy spooge, Alps. In the chat, there's something, Arturo Tapping, there's a comment. Arturo Tapping told me that they had his performers in film at CBC, but they deleted it all to reuse it for a news item.
Okay. They should have him when he flicked on the wall. I saw it more than once. It was unbelievable.
He did it at CBC and mashed up all of the.
Yes. Yes. I was there. Yes. That should be on film somewhere. According to Bajan, that by flip.
He flipped and mashed up and destroyed the backdrop.
Yes.
Let us hope now that we've re-energized, thanks to Aja re-energizing last year, University of the West Indies, we are re-energizing these energies, and perhaps we really can carry out some really close readings. Maybe some students come when we look through the tapes or something. But I too, when I was in Laugh It Off, suffered from the CBC. CBC came, I'll just give you a quick story, not music. They came and recorded us in Laugh It Off. We had the audience, it went into 11 o'clock. They were meticulous, etc. And the very next day, they put a football match on the tape. We never got the match.
It is said that one of Jackie Opel's performances was covered with Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, I mean, and that was just what had me, right? In all fairness, because my good friend Peter Allen sent us saying we will look for the film, so we will. what was amazing is how meticulous they were the very night before. And then I know someone reached to use the table, and that was it. Ladies, gentlemen, and ladies, Miss Springer, thank you very much. Denise is a PhD and MPhil student in cultural studies who just came on to this. So her name isn't in the thank you, but I want to thank you. She's working on social media. She's very interested in this. I want to thank Allison again. I want to thank Rita again, but we at the university will have to sign off. I know the gentleman will keep talking. We invite all of you to join us again in November. We will put up what we call papers. And what we're thinking of is academics from around the world, because reggae studies is very strong and many academics are looking at Jackie Opel, looking at reggae, spooge as well, but we also want to have workshops on spooge. The same way Alps just put together the rhythms of spooge to have that. If we are not in COVID, we'll be able to be face-to-face. If we are online, well, in COVID, music is being made online, dance is being done online, who knows? We will meet in a space, some space in UNI, in the FCCPA, Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, or right here in digital space. I am thanking all of you gentlemen. We have 50 participants.
Okay, thank you.
For 3 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me too. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next time, let's have Richard and Mark and Corbin, who was apparently trying to get on. I sent him the link. So everyone here, thank you very much.
Yes, bless.
Walk good. Hey.
Yes, boss. Let's go.
Okay.
Robert.
Yes. All right, one.
Number 2. Yeah, what I'm saying. You get off to play. I'll go home. You're a married man.